Ready?
I'm here.
All right, we are ready whenever you guys are.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Today is February 14th, and the time is 8:30 a.m. This is the meeting of the Planning Advisory Board. We'll call to order. Welcome, everyone, and hi, all board members. At this time, I'll do a roll call. If you're present, please indicate aye or raise your hand. Melanie Hartwig Davis.
Aye.
Lawrence Blevins.
Aye.
Edward Evans. Van Mason.
Here.
Elizabeth Rossborg.
Aye.
Hi, and myself, Gus Kurtz. So with, let's see, 5 members present, we do have a quorum. Is there a motion this morning to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The agenda is approved. Next, a motion to approve the minutes for January the 8th.
I move to approve the minutes for January 8th.
Second.
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 Is there any changes? Okay, with that, a motion has been made to approve the minutes for January the 8th. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? The minutes are approved. So with that, today's agenda consists of our capital improvement program budget presentation from various county departments. We'll start with an overview of the fiscal year 2026 budget from the budget office. Chris, the floor is yours.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. For the record, I'm Chris Trumbauer, your budget officer. I'm very pleased to be here again. I always kind of kick this off to give you a little bit of flavor of what you can expect over the coming weeks. But before I do that, I just want to extend some thank yous to Naomi, particularly on my staff, and Sam, who really helped put all this together. Certainly to our friends in Department of Public Works. What you guys are seeing now is the result of a couple months of work on the internal side to get it to this point. And now, of course, you guys will take what we've submitted, make it even better, get it another step closer to what is ultimately submitted by the county executive on May 1st. So it takes a village, and we're happy that you're part of that village. And unfortunately, we do have your work cut out for you this time. Let me just characterize, as you know, we've been moving kind of an expanded capital program through the 6-year CIP over the last few years. This was started with the public improvement bonds, the PPI bonds. We're able to do some more Board of Ed projects, school construction and public safety and roads. We've also been enhancing our Rec and Parks program. So that big slug of projects is still kind of moving through. This is probably the last year or two that we'll see that. And then we're going to get hopefully back to what is a normal, if you will, baseline level. So because of that, you will not see many new projects in this draft CIP. So there's a handful. There's a couple small Rec and Parks projects, a few new roads and bridges projects, but the vast majority of the things that you will be considering and deliberating on are really projects that have been in the pipeline. You may see some cost increases or cost adjustments, and those are going to be primarily from two things. Either it's an existing project that we're bringing a new phase in, like maybe last year we programmed in phase 1, and this year we're looking to bring in phase 2, or you're going to see cost estimates that have been updated because in a previous year, we may have had a preliminary estimate or a concept design, and then we actually now have put it out to bid and we have hard numbers to associate with that. Now, in some cases, the bid comes in lower than expected and the ultimate cost goes down. In more frequently, it tends to be a little higher, especially in this high inflation environment that we're still in. So we've done some work trimming up some of the projects, getting them ready for your consideration. There still are some additional cuts that we will need to make, and budget team and DPW team and everybody stands willing to partner and ready to help guide you in those decisions. So good luck in these couple weeks. We are here to help. And I'm very pleased at this point to turn it back over to Naomi, and she can walk through the overview.
Thank you, Chris.
Good morning. Naomi McAllister, Capital Budget Analyst in the Office of Budget. Can everyone see my screen? Great. Okay,
Yes.
so fiscal year 26, it's kicking off. I just wanted to take a few moments to actually go through a couple of things here. Oop, no. Okay. I did take your agenda and I made some adjustments to it. So today's agenda is out on the Google Share Drive, and I've kind of highlighted the department that is presenting. I've also indicated what page number that department starts on in the highlighter report and the one-pager report. I thought that that might help you move through the material a little quicker. I know departments do their best efforts to make sure that that information is presented in, when they're out there presenting to you all, but I thought it might be nice to have it in another spot. So, okay, just to get started here. This structure is very similar to as it was last year. The first section obviously is to take a look at where we are today, the fiscal year 25 approved capital budget and program, and it provides you kind of a reference point to start off from as we move into the fiscal year 26. After you touch on that, I'm not going to cover it, but we will move into then the FY26 affordability guidelines, which will be presented by Huja Hasim. I then will start the process with going through the capital budget overview on a high level. We'll also cover some other pieces of information. I know you requested a list of the federal grants that are currently active, so that has been included in our presentation. Then we'll move on to the funding structure. So like, how are we going to pay for this all? And we'll take a look at the revised affordability model. And then we will also kind of briefly touch on the what we call the funded unfunded reports. And that is just our way of fully disclosing to you department requests and those items that have been removed from their request due to affordability. And of course, as always, we do have the highlighter report as a separate PDF file. We have the Schedule 3 more or less report, which basically lets us know from a bonds and pay-go perspective, is this request higher or lower than what the fiscal year 25 approved was? And then we have the Schedule 4 one-pager report. I did just want to touch on the highlighter report here for you. We did make a modification this year. We're kind of like the Skittles, the rainbow. I have color-coded this thing. If you see an item that is highlighted in red, that indicates it has impact fees associated with it. Blue indicates federal grants, green indicates state grants, and yellow indicates other funding sources such as TIF or VLT funding. Generally, what I do here is I just highlight the name of the capital project. Sometimes there's multiple funding sources on there, so you actually might see a couple of colors on some of these capital projects. Additionally, I have bookmarked this for you all. So if you just click on the bookmark and click on the class, you will see the departments broken out, and that helps you again move a little more quickly through the material. This was also done for the one-pager report. Again, if you click on the bookmark and you click on the class, you will see it broken out by department. Of course, you can always use the Control F, find, and then type the name of the capital project and start it that way. But I just thought I'd go through those things on a really, really high level. At this time, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Huja Hasim, who will be presenting the debt affordability guidelines. Huja?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Huja Hasim, Budget Administrator. I want to just spend 10 minutes to quickly go over the FY26 affordability guidelines. And as presented in the past, you guys, at department, we closely monitor 4 very important debt ratios, which is very consistent with all other jurisdictions. And these 4 ratios are monitored by all other jurisdictions in the entire United States. Next slide. So in the first ratio is the left side, debt service to the operating revenue. This ratio basically divided all the principal and interest payments of our existing debt divided by the total general fund revenue. And that guideline currently is 11.5%. This ratio is basically kind of a debt to income ratio when you buy a house. And the next right-hand side, debt to estimated full value. This is basically total outstanding debt divided by total market value of the property tax base, assessable base for it, basically. And this is basically another wealth measure for the counties and municipalities. Next slide. And as you can see in this chart is updated in 2020 by State Maryland and Maryland Department of Legislative Services. And this is that ratio, basically total debt divided by assessable base. And if you see the lighter color, that means debt burden is smaller, and darker color is basically debt burden is higher, as you can see. And Arundel County is lighter than any other jurisdiction around central Maryland, big counties like Montgomery, Prince George's, Howard, Baltimore County. So, and this ratio usually stays steady because your debt probably grows 3-4% a year, and then your assessable base grows 3-4% a year. So that's why 2020 data is still good to look at it. Next slide. So, and the third ratio, the left side, debt to personal income. And this ratio is dividing total debt by the total count as personal income, and that guideline is 4%. The rationale behind this guideline is personal income is very important measure of a local or jurisdiction's taxable base, because our income tax is roughly 35% of our total revenue, and that's very important to look at it. And the right hand side, debt per capita. This is a very important measure because this measure is the only measure out of this four you can take it and compare it to other jurisdictions nationwide or anything, because this one is apple to apple comparable to other jurisdictions. All other measures is maybe different because sometimes some counties consider general fund debt differently. Some include solid waste in the general fund debt, some include utility in the general fund debt, but this debt per capita usually is very comparable. Basically total debt divided by population. And our guideline is usually last year's number plus January's consumer price index for this. And currently that stands. Last year's was $3,839. So yesterday's CPI is 3%. So that would be the FY26 guideline. Next slide. Okay, this slide basically give you history of key guidelines starting fiscal year 2009. And as you can see in the second column, the debt column shows new debt authority we determined each year. 2009 was 100 million. 2010 to 2013 is 115. And 2014 was 115. And starting 2015, we changed 120 million. And 2016 is a big jump because we changed our bond issuance term from 20 years to 30 years. And that gave us ability to increase the new authority from 120 million to 145 million. And since then, we're gradually growing. And now we're standing at 160 to 170 million-ish, depending on which fiscal year we're looking at. And debt per capita guideline, as you can see, used to be a round number, and then starting fiscal year 2024, fiscal 2024, we adopted you changed every year based on the consumer price index, because as you can see, 1,500, you have to jump to 2,000, you have to jump to 3,000, because this one is an inflationary, it changes because 20 years ago, $1 is now probably worth like $100.50. So that kind of stuff. And so now we good. Basically, we targeted to the fiscal CPI, Consumer Price Index. Last column, debt service as a personal revenue. And you can see that that is a guideline. Used to be 9%, and then we increase it to 10%. Then when we change it, our debt issuance term from 20 years to 30 years, we decided to change it to 11.5 as a ceiling. Basically, that is our ceiling number. And then we've been keeping that 11.5, and we don't have any intention to change it in the near future. The next slide. And this is, as I mentioned earlier, this first ratio is a debt service to the operating revenue ratio. It's very important. And that these table shows you the actual, the previous slides, I was talking about the guideline. This is a ceiling or limit, but this is the actual where we stand. As you can see, the highest in here you can see is what? 9%. The actual world. And then recently is coming down even to 6.6%. The reason is inflation-induced revenues growing up. For example, income tax is growing almost about 5%. And we also have some tax hikes in the post property tax and income tax. So your denominator is growing bigger than the numerator. So we have 6.6%, but that does not mean we will have 6.6% because we have a lot of authorized but unissued debt in the books, because basically as soon as the capital budget is passed, that means you have authorized all the bond used in the capital budget. But because of the spending, because of the cash flow counties, cash needs, cash usage, we have a lot of almost near close to $550 million of authorized but unissued debt, which could be issued like tomorrow if we need cash or if you suddenly spend capital. So I will get into that later in one of the slides. And I want to just mention this operating revenue at about 2.1 billion. If 1% more in this ratio basically translated into $21.1 million additional debt service cost, and that translated into about 300 million more debt. So basically, if you authorize $300 million more debt in this capital budget today, that means 21.1 million ongoing mortgage payment for us. And that means our debt ratio will go up by 1%. Next slide. So this is a very high level, very important debt affordability model. As you can see in the top, that's a new authority for each fiscal year: 160 million, 160, 160, 165, 170, 170. And in the middle, as I mentioned earlier, all the four ratios, the guidelines, and what we're projecting for the next one budget year and 5 program years. As you can see, highest we can see in here is 8.5% for the debt service as a revenue ratio in 2028. That's good. I think this is the lowest number in my last 10 years doing this job. So this is a good sign. And in the bottom box, you see total debt service, which is 161 million for the FY26, and gradually grow to 205 million. And the second row in the bottom box is debt end of the fiscal year, 1.7 billion grows to 2 billion, basically. This is these $160 million new authority. And the area I mentioned, debt service, look at that. Debt service, 161 million grows to 200 million. And then the reason of that, like $40 million grows in just 2 years here. If you see FY26 to FY28, the debt service, The reason is we have a lot of authorized but unissued debt in the book. You pass the capital budget, and then, but we do the capital projects, right? But we issue the bond whenever we need the cash, whenever we run out of cash for that project. So that means and then that number is highest right now as we stand, because I don't know, maybe labor shortages, maybe whatever, capital budget spending is not catching up what we authorized. And that's why, but in this modeling purposes, you have to assume that bond that 500 million gonna be issued within 2 years, because PO is already out, contract is already out, you're gonna spend that. So that highlights that $161 to $199 million gross in 2 years as a debt service. All right, next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our bond rating, and then it's the rating agency's feedback. Overall, you all know we are AAA, and basically they usually give us some credit opinions. Everybody said we are strong economy, very good financial management. And there's some warnings. So basically saying if you grow the debt too quickly, or you cannot maintain your ratios, or your liability growing too fast, whatever, we may downgrade you. So we are watching closely. And so this is an overview for you from the rating agencies. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm open to any questions you may have about the debt affordabilities.
Well, thank you very much, Huja.
You're welcome.
And as always, Chris and Naomi, thank you for all your preparation and hard work. At this time, is there any board members that have any questions? No questions? Okay. Jessica, are we ready to move forward with our presentations?
I think we are. I think Naomi has a few more slides before we dive into fire, though.
Okay. Naomi?
Thank you. I'll move quickly. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things that have happened fiscal year 25. We're more engaged with the Resilience Authority. A couple of the projects that we are now working deeply with the Resilience Authority in, and especially in fiscal year 26, is EV charging station, Glen Burnie Plaza redevelopment, stream shoreline erosion control with some child projects, and Beverly Triton Nature Park. Additionally, included in your packet is the potential changes. Specifically, I'm referring to the federal grants. Here is a quick list of all the grants that are currently active in the program. I do want to clarify that this does not mean in any way that these grants aren't going to come in. Like, this is just a list to let you know that this could be the exposure. As you know, things have changed very rapidly since January, and I'm sure that they will continue to do so. So I just wanted to kind of give you a reference point here based on your request. Okay, this is the fiscal year 26 budget and program as a whole, considering all funding sources. We've got the classes on the left. We have the 6-year total here. And then, of course, to the right are the items that you're going to be considering for review this period, the 26 budget and then the out years. As you can see, we've got a couple of, we're still working through some big projects here. We still have the Board of Education with their old mill capital projects coming into line. We have a couple in Rec and Park. We have the swim center baked in there along with Quiet Waters. We've got the 911 center, the joint 911 center in here. So there's a couple of big things that are still working through the capital budget and program. So no real big surprises. The next slide really just breaks it out for you by department. So it's just another way to look at the information. It's chunked into county government and then the independent boards. The next report is the funding source summary report, and this basically explains how we're going to pay for all this. It is chunked into 4 sections: the general county fund, the solid waste, the utility, and then watershed. First section being bonds, and I've highlighted a couple items here that I know you all like to take a look at. PAYGO here, general fund PAYGO. We have our impact fees. I'd also like to note, under grants and aid, we do not have any more ARP. Yay, that is concluded. So I'm really happy about that. Moving on, of course, we have our state funding here. We have the IAC funding, tentative $30 million. This number may go up, but this is the most recent information we have from them at this point. And we do have a little more built to learn money, as I call it, the BLT money, coming in at $47 million. We also have the section for our other funding sources, and this is where you will find things like TIF and VLT and reforestation, and a little bit of energy loan revolving fund. And then, of course, we have the utility fund and we have watershed. Okay, moving on to the fiscal year 26 affordability comparison. Huj has already touched on this, so I will just move quickly. We're starting out with $160 million in fiscal year 29. We have 165 million to 170. This is what was in the FY25 approved program. For fiscal year 31, we are continuing that $170 million on. We do have a little bit of savings realized this year, not as much as last time. We only have about $500,000, but we are looking at $150 million in PAYGO this year, which is a really, really great number. So our affordability for fiscal year 26 is about $310 million. And of course, this section just compares affordability to the program and the department request by year. And then the lower section here does the cumulative. So you can see this number going up and up and up. And this is where we are starting today. We are $407 million over affordability. This is actually really good because compared to last year, I think it was around 515 million. So we are positioned well. But we will have some challenges. We'll go through the process and kind of take a look at some of those low-hanging fruits to bring that number down, but it will be challenging. Chris, do you have anything you would like to add to this slide?
Yeah, thanks, Naomi. So she's correct. So this number that you're kind of getting first is lower than last year, but it's a little deceptive because, to be honest, there's no easy cuts out there for you. Like there's not going to be anything obvious, I think. And so as you guys deliberate, we are continuing to work internally to see if there are other things that we can do to be helpful. So in Huj's presentation, he mentioned, or he showed you all how favorable our debt ratios look. And that does give us the opportunity to consider, even though we have FY26 through FY29, the same as it was last year, there is a possibility we could look to increase some of those to get some additional bond authority. We also haven't plugged in completely all the other potential funding sources like impact fees and things. And then finally, one thing we're doing this year, because we've had a few years of very healthy PAYGO contributions and we've been building up some of the recurring projects, we're taking a real close look at those to see what their available balances are, to see if there's any resetting that needs to be done. So we are, even though we're giving you this draft CIP, we're continuing to do the work internally to try and bring some tools available, to help us get down to the number that we ultimately want. And I wanted to be, put that out there for you guys now at the start of that. So in a couple of weeks, when it's deliberation phase, we know what's possibly on the table. So thank you, Naomi.
Thanks, Chris. Moving on quickly, this is just another way to look at that report. It just breaks it out individually by bonds and PAYGO each year. So there's nothing really exciting there. Okay, this is the one report I did want to touch on really, really quick. This is the project class report. We typically refer to it as the funded unfunded report because it takes the capital approved program, compares it to the request, and it shows you the difference. Okay, so this year we are requesting $30 million more than what the approved program was. How did we get there? And this section here explains it. Is it a new capital project or is it a scope change? Is it a timing shift? Sometimes one year you'll meet it and then the next year all of a sudden it pops up. That's not this particular case. Are there cost increases with no scope change? So those are, just increase in cost estimates. This section here is estimated cost decreases with no scope change. And then the final section of the report here is called the unfunded request by project type, and it has 3 sections. The first section is the one-time standalone placeholder that actually was approved last year, but for whatever reason is not in the program this year. Obviously, this isn't the example in this case, and you won't see that. Actually, I don't think you see that at all in any of these classes. And then, of course, the one-time standalone requests that weren't in the approved budget, but they're asking for more money. So, for example, this county facilities and systems upgrade, they really wanted $2.6 million more than what you're seeing in your packet. The same with the transportation operations facility. And there could be various reasons for this, but I just wanted to point this section out. And then, of course, you have your multi-year recurring capital projects here. And this is the total. And this just goes through project class. You've got public safety, recreation and parks, and you just keep going through all the classes. The final report in this packet is the project listing by class. So it just basically lists all the capital projects out and the amount of money they're looking for. It's just another way to look at the information. I have gone through the highlighter report and the one pager. At this time, I'd like to open it up if anyone has any questions. Okay, well,
Naomi, I had a quick question.
Oh, okay.
When you first started off, you listed all the, was it federal grants, but you said they may not necessarily be impacted, but you just wanted us to know.
Correct. We were speaking with Melanie and Gus, and they expressed concern given the changing environment, and they thought it would be a good idea to just pull together a list of what our potential exposure is. And so that's what the slide really does.
Right. And so is that like a total of 8 million or more?
I'm sorry,
is that the way I'm reading it? Is the total amount about 8 million?
No, it's actually about 78 million.
78 million, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, that concludes the office's budgets presentation. Turn it back over to you, Gus.
Okay, thank you. Pooja or Chris, do we have anything else?
Nope, I think we bombarded you guys with information, and now it's time for you to hear from departments.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to see that we're 100 million less than last year in our overage. So I know that the cuts that need to be made are going to be really tough this year, as always. So with that, Jessica, thank you guys for your presentation. We really appreciate it, and we're going to move forward. Now, Jessica, do we have let's see, public safety ready?
Yeah, we have folks from the fire department here, so I am working to promote them to panelists. So my friends from the fire department, you might see something pop up on your screen saying you're a panelist now. You can go ahead and accept that. And that will give you the ability to unmute yourself and to share screen.
Hi, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Good morning, yes.
Good morning, Chief.
Hi, how are you guys?
We're all great, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
Hello.
Oh yeah, right, exactly. Well, thank you all for the time. I will quickly introduce my budget team and we'll get right into it. One of the great things about this presentation for you all is it is going to be the same as last year. We're asking for nothing new. We're just continuing on with our plan, and it's actually very similar to the year before that. So once you all are reminded of the projects, it'll seem very familiar. And then obviously we'll take any questions, anything that we can answer. And if there's any follow-up, please just contact me directly and we'll do follow-up. So the team here is Chief Tom Young, who works with our budget analyst, Arlene Flynn, who is also on the screen. And then we also have Chief Michael Faltzcraft. I'm going to switch over here and share my screen. Let's see. Oh, goodness. Sorry about this, folks. You all are in the way of my finger touching here. There we go. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, welcome to our capital improvement program, and we'll start moving through. I think all of you know our fire department here in Anne Arundel County, but here's just a couple of stats. The fire service has 3 different types of fire department. You can be all career, all volunteer, or combination, and we are lucky enough to be a combination fire department. So you'll see our volunteer workforce, our career workforce, and then also our fire stations that are career owned and volunteer owned. What I can say is probably some of the most impactful numbers are the ones on the bottom, and that is how we are growing in terms of call volume and transportations that we do with our ambulance and paramedic units to the hospital. So it has not been a slow year, but it has been a really good year for the fire department. Here are the capital projects. We listed them in order of the paperwork you have in front of you. So the Schedule 2, it is a little bit of a rundown, but again, once you start seeing some of the names of the stations, it'll start to look a little familiar. So this is one proposed, what we're calling a new transfer, again, because we're not asking for any additional money. And I'll move right to that slide. And this is our fire apparatus replacement plan. This is my 6 years fire chief. We came in as a team, and after my first year, we put together a replacement plan. I thought it was important that the community and all of our stakeholders understand the cost of apparatus and how we spend money to keep our fleet healthy. The fleet was in pretty bad condition just based on wear and tear, no fault of anybody, but just the usage. So what this does is normally the fleet and the cost of the fleet are in operational, and we're asking to move it over to CIP. 2 main reasons, and actually one of the reasons that you can tell I'm sitting in a hotel room right now is because I'm in DC working with our Congress members in the White House, but we have been heavily impacted by how long it takes to receive apparatus coming out of production. We used to be able to get an engine or a truck or a tanker in 1 year, and we are pushing almost 4 to 5 years with the production schedule. That has also made everything incredibly expensive. We were paying about $700,000 for a fire engine. We're paying 1.5, 1.7 million. Same thing with the truck, 2.3 million. So some of the work I've been doing here today and yesterday is to hopefully work with the nation's fire service to get the cost and the timing down. So those are the biggest reasons we think it would be more helpful for planning to be able to move it over into capital. But again, we're not asking for any different money than what we would have in operations. Here's some of our reoccurring projects, repair and renovation. This one's pretty important. As you saw in that first slide, some of our stations are volunteer owned. This is a way that we can share the workload and the weight of when we have to make repairs to some of our older stations or when things just come up. This is a very seamless system. We have great conversation about, are we splitting it? Does the volunteer corporation want to cover it? Does the county want to cover it? But it's basically a refund system so that they can submit their receipts to us as the county, and we can make sure that all of our firefighters are in a healthy and safe environment. The other thing is our fire suppression tanks. There's over 300 of them in the county. This is what we use to get water onto the fire ground in areas of the county that do not have fire hydrants. So we maintain these, make sure that they're functioning. We're not adding any new tanks. So this is the cost, the $125,000 is our normal maintenance cost. If we were adding new tanks, that would obviously be higher, but we don't feel we need to add any right now. Crownsville Fire Station, if any of you have been in that area, which I hope you have, if not, please drive by there. There is a beautiful community fire station being built at the corner of Generals and Sunrise Beach. It is absolutely stunning. We're looking forward to welcoming the community in a couple months when we move in. But again, this is a project that's fully funded and is looking to be completed in the next couple of months. Also, projects that were completed in previous years, we like to add that in. Jacobsville Fire Station over towards the Eastern District of the county, and then Galesville in South County. So again, those are fully completed projects. Our fire and EMS folks are in and working and enjoying a new fire station. This has by far been our biggest, and I will say our most expensive project, but probably the most needed. When I got here 6 years ago, this was the very first thing that came online. So as you can see, the costs are always shifting. Those are just project costs, just like Naomi talked about. The Fire Academy is incredibly old, and we have outgrown it. The Academy was built for a workforce of about 250 firefighters. And as you can see from that first screen, there's about 1,500 firefighters that work in Anne Arundel County. So we have property on Generals Highway, and we're working in combination and coordination with our combined 911 center that will be on the same site. So a little bit of a public safety campus. So this is an incredibly important project, even though I know it does come with the price tag, but we expect to get multiple uses out of it. Cape Sinclair Fire Station, we are very excited. This has been a great partnership with the Volunteer Corporation and the members of Cape Sinclair. We are getting ready to roll right into construction. All the plans are set, all the work has been done. One of the unique things about this property is we save some costs because we can keep the firefighters in the existing old building while we build a new building right next door on what was previously the parking lot. So we always like that when we can keep our services running and then just transition right into the new station. The other great thing about this project is because it was so collaborative with county and volunteer corporation, is it was truly designed by both sides for volunteer and career firefighters, and really taken a lot of time and attention to make sure it matched the look of the neighborhood. I thought that was pretty important. The other thing that's been happening with our fire stations is we've been adding community rooms because I want the community to feel welcome. I want HOAs to have a place to have a meeting. I like the concept of this is your firehouse if you live in this neighborhood. And I think it was important to make sure that any of the civic groups in the area have a place to meet and gather and do whatever their community work is, how we like to do our community service. Arundel Fire Station 7, this one will be a next up as we do land acquisition and look to acquire land and then work through plans. Again, another combination station of career and volunteer firefighters and EMS folks. We're looking to stay right in the same area. That's been the recommendation from our GIS folks that help us make sure that we are building stations, excuse me, in the best area. So that the resources assigned to that station can get to the emergencies as quick as possible. Chapel Fire Station, this actually isn't far from our Arundel station. Those of you that live in that area of Chapel, Two Rivers, you know how busy and how congested it has gotten over the years. So this is us just trying to stay ahead and plan. This will be another site, just like I previously spoke about with Cape Sinclair. We'll be able to reside in the building while we build right next door, since the property is already owned by the county. Infrastructure repairs. This is actually a line item that came about in conjunction with working with Central Services, DPW. We were starting to notice these large dollar projects that must be addressed. Major cracks in the front apron of fire stations. One of the pictures here is some major issues that we had with the concrete at one of our stations. Old generators that need to be replaced. So this money was put together so that we kind of had a little bit of a safety net when these are things that we obviously must have. I can't have an interior of an engine bay not be able to hold the weight of an engine, or a generator that doesn't kick on during a storm, to make sure all of our folks can function. Again, health and safety, most important thing of when we house our firefighters. So this is a program we've had and just continue to maintain because it has been incredibly useful. Jessup Fire Station, previously when we've given you lists of the age of fire stations and the condition, Jessup has rated one of the oldest and poorest. And so we are very excited that we have done land acquisition. We are working through plans. We'll be within 3 miles of where the current location is. If you all know the Blobbs Park area. If you've also been in that area, you know that the highway system is encroaching on us very quickly. And so we'll be moving just a mile or two away. And we already have the land and we're working through the plans. This is a really good community partnership with LDC. And as you can see the note on the bottom about the video lottery impact aid. So we're very lucky to have great community partners. Here's just a rundown of what I went through so you can kind of see, again, it's nothing is new. We are just trying to keep up and keep our infrastructure healthy. And so here's the list. The numbers next to it where it says Crownsville 6, Cape Sinclair 19. Those are the fire station numbers that a lot of us identify with instead of using the name of it. But again, it just gives you an idea of the replacement that is happening. Here's the timeline of those replacements. And again, as you can see, going back to FY23 and 24, we're really just kind of staying paced and trying to be fiscally responsible, but also not let projects get away with a longer timeline, knowing that the construction cost, absorbing those has been quite challenging. And this is our last slide, and I know there's quite a bit on there, but this is a way that we were hoping you could see funding changes by project. These are all the projects that I just discussed, so they all fit on one page, which I think is always great. We don't like to overwhelm anyone. And again, I'll just say, nothing new. We're fire station driven, we're training academy driven, and then all the other projects are really just supporting that. So again, I want to thank Chief Young, Chief Falscraft, and Darlene, our wonderful budget analyst. And I'll stop sharing and open the screen back up for any questions.
Chief Wolford, thank you for your presentation.
Yes, sir.
You didn't mention the fire apparatus facility. Can you talk about that? The repair facility?
That's the actual repair facility is not one of my capital projects.
Okay.
Are you talking about the newer building to house it? And I think Darlene, I can see a look on Darlene's face.
Yeah,
The
that's
new
one of
building,
the,
I believe it's on Ritchie Highway.
yeah, that's central services. I think they're going to talk about that during their presentation.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to steal their thunder, but we like that project too, just so you all know.
All right, thank you. Elizabeth?
But you, great presentation, thank you. And I'm really glad to see both that you're in DC, lobbying for more funds. And I was shocked at the price of the apparatus, which brings me to Early Heights. Can you give us an update on where Early Heights is in the streamline? Because I know that the newer trucks won't fit in that current firehouse.
We do have to make some adjustments. We're again I feel incredibly lucky every time it comes up and I'm talking about a combination station. I'm going, that's a great partnership. And Chief Crawford and that board there are phenomenal partners. He and I were just texting last night. What the position, because it's the volunteer corporation, and I like to be very respectful of how the corporation does their business, is he comes to me when they need support. And so I continue to be supportive of the project of the station, but I make sure that I am not in the details of it. So I know they are continuing to move forward. We still desperately need that station. They're hands down, it is incredibly busy. And we need the space, and the infrastructure is old. I have always shared with him my concerns. If we don't get that station, we're going to have to do something, because we'll be getting into some major health and safety issues. There's just too many of our members that are working out of that station. So we stay focused on supporting them, and looking forward to getting a new station there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm always in touch with him as well. I just didn't know, I didn't see it on the list, and I know that they're pushing hard, and they were able to get some zoning changes in order to facilitate a new, bigger station. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other questions from any board members? Okay, with that, Chief Wolford, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you all. Have a great day. It was wonderful to see you.
Thank you. Okay, Jessica, moving forward to detention facilities.
Yep. So, folks from detention, I see you are on. I will switch your settings to panelists. It'll pop up with something on the screen that it lets you know that you just have to accept. And then you'll be able to unmute and share screen. All right. I only saw Chief Klein and Mr. Kelson. I know you guys also have Michael Borges, or sorry if I mispronounced that last name, and Jasper Engel on your presenters. Are they still planning to attend?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good morning. I'm not sure if Mike had actually taken off today. And I tried to invite Kyle Lee, our new business manager, so I don't know if she'll be able to join. And then I do have Jessica Roberts. She's my executive administrative assistant. She's actually going to run the slides, and it looks like she's already taken control of that.
Awesome. And Kylie was just promoted as well, so I think you guys are all here.
Yep. Okay.
All right, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. So good morning, Planning Advisory Board committee members, Chairman Kurtz. As stated, I'm Christopher Klein, the Superintendent of the Department of Detention Facilities. I'm here today to present to the Planning Advisory Board the proposed projects as part of our capital improvement program. Online with me today, as stated, I believe is Facility Administrator John Kelson, and then Kyle Lee, our business manager, who just recently joined our team at the end of January, but has previously worked for us in a different capacity as our financial manager. As noted on slide 1 here, our projects are contained on page 6 of the highlighter report, and pages 50 through 52 and 72 through 74 on the one-pager report. On behalf of all of the staff at the Department of Detention, I'd like to thank this board, the county exec, and his office for the continued support of our department as we strive to fulfill our mission to provide for public safety by the detention and confinement of pretrial detainees and convicted offenders in safe and secure facilities. I apologize for my voice. It feels like I'm about to lose it here. So going to slide 2, as such, our long-range projects are to provide safe and secure facilities for all of our staff and detainees and convicted offenders, providing adequate parking access for staff and visitors at Jennifer Road, and then creating a reentry hub for detainees and offenders, as well as continuing to maintain facilities that meet or exceed safety and security standards that clearly align with our mission. Slide 3, our first request, F536700, is for $250,000 for detention center renovations. Jennifer Road was originally built in the 1960s and requires routine maintenance and repairs to assure the facility is safe, secure, and adheres to applicable standards for accreditation. Although not as dated, Ordnance Road was constructed in 1998 and continues to need repairs as expected from a 24/7, 365-day facility that's run there. It's with this funding that we expect to replace flooring at Jennifer Road, continue to redo showers at Ordnance Road, and continue to maintain fencing, painting, as well as fund other prioritized facility improvements throughout the year. On slide 4, our second project is F5 80500, and that's for the Central Holding and Processing Center parking. This project is asking for $72,000 in addition to the $2.3 million that was previously approved for 50 plus parking spaces across from the street from the West Annapolis Fire Station. This lot will provide much needed parking relief for staff and visitors at both Jennifer Road Detention Center as well as the Central Holding Processing Center staff. And all of those that are entering those facilities will have access to this parking lot. It's my understanding that the project design is about 90% complete. The grading permitting applications have been submitted, and the construction schedule is set for late 2025 here. On slide 5, our third project is the Ordnance Road Correctional Center Comprehensive Reentry Hub. This is asking for an additional $45,000. This is in addition to the $2.6 million that was previously approved. As identified in the Ordnance Road Space Reutilization Study, a comprehensive reentry hub was found to be a good investment in utilizing existing space to help lower recidivism rates in the county and become a central location for providing and coordinating necessary services and resources that individuals need to be successful. This hub would be shared space with our critical partners that provide services such as housing, transportation, labor resources, benefits, education, and much more. Additionally, this space would be available to both our internal incarcerated individuals as well as the individuals that are supervised in the community on house arrest and pretrial supervision, thus truly reaching all that are justice involved in our county. Slide 6 here, this is just an overview of projects that had previously been completed but are still on the report there. So first we have the security system project, which was completed and came in $19,000 less than expected. That provided much needed security increases to our security system that benefited both the staff and inmates. The fifth project was for the Ordnance Road Correctional Center yard covers. I'll say that was definitely a lengthy project. We are thrilled that it is completed to the standards that we were looking for, and that allowed us to reopen up that housing area and use that yard area for the inmates for recreation purposes. And then our sixth project was the detention center, Jennifer Road Detention Center system upgrade that improved the security doors, monitoring and verification of rounds that officers complete throughout the housing units. So that concludes my presentation. I'd just like to say that our dedicated staff have a difficult job protecting the community in a unique way in these detention facilities. They're basically small cities, and we're responsible for the humane treatment of every individual that's in our secure environment. And this request will allow us to continue to improve safety, morale, and the effectiveness of our overall correctional system. We remain committed to working together to providing public safety, and we're prepared to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. One question on the parking lot. How long will that construction take?
I really don't have a sense of the length of time for the construction. I will say it's difficult. It's a difficult area. I believe there's some retaining walls that have to be initially installed as part of that construction because it backs up on a drainage sort of, I don't know if it's a tax ditch or drainage ditch area there between where we are and the Anne Arundel County Medical Center there. So I know that that's going to be probably a big part of that project. But then other than that, it's only 50 spaces. We are talking with the county about trying to implement some of the EV charging stations as part of that project in coordination with the county executive's goal on more reliance on electric vehicles. So I'm hoping sooner than later, but I really don't have a good sense for that timeline at this time. But I can report back to you if I can get that information.
Well, I hope it goes as smooth as possible because I know they're very much needed.
Yeah,
Been a long
absolutely.
time, yeah. Okay, board members, any other questions? No questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation.
I appreciate it. Sorry about the voice cracking there. It seems like I'm coming down with something maybe.
Okay, Jessica, we're going to take a 5-minute break and then we'll resume. It's 9:31. We'll come back in 5 minutes.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
And Mr. Kurtz, I believe next on our list is planning and zoning. Are you ready for them?
Yes.
Awesome. I will go ahead and promote planning and zoning to panelists. You'll see something pop up on your screen that you need to accept in order to unmute and share your screen. All right, I think planning and zoning will be ready in just a minute.
Are you ready for us?
We're ready if you are.
All right, wonderful. Good morning, Chair Kurtz and members of the Planning Advisory Board. Christina Pompa with the Office of Planning and Zoning. We also have Jenny Dempsey here and Allison Valiant. We're here to talk to you today about the Agricultural Preservation Program. We have 2 line items in the capital budget. We took this program over from the Department of Recs and Parks in FY 2024. So our 2 line items, one is simply noted as Agriculture Preservation Program. That includes money for the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation easement program, which is run through the Maryland Department of Agriculture. It also includes our own county program called the Agricultural and Woodland Preservation Program. And then we have a line item for rural legacy easements. That program is managed through DNR. The programs that are run at the state level, the county, we have a partnership. So for our ask this year, we have a number of easements that are working through the process. Mouth is running on a 2-year cycle this year, and we not only have an offer that occurred in FY 24 that we haven't spent yet because it hasn't gone to closing. That's the 126 acres, the first bullet in the project status. We also have 5 additional projects that are working their way through the mouth process in FY 2025. Not all 5 of those projects are expected to get funded. The top 2 candidates are the second and third bullets, the 120 acres and 91 acres. And then we still have 2 additional properties that we think may be eligible for the county's program. And so there's a lot of money that is in line for spending right now. We also, for FY 26, have about 7 property prospects for additional easements. Our original ask for the capital improvement program had been about 7 million. That's been adjusted down to 3.329 million, which you can see in the second to last square in the agricultural preservation program column. And then for future years, we're looking at spending of 2 million. On the rural legacy side, last year we got a grant from Rural Legacy for $891,000. And we'd like to be able to spend about $1 million a year for Rural Legacy. So those are our asks for this year. It's pretty simple. Again, we only have 2 line items, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Christina. My first comment would be this is such important projects because a lot of these projects are once in a lifetime
Mhm.
possibilities. So these are funds that are desperately critical to fund these projects so they can move forward. And it is a complicated process and takes a long time. So some years there's not any requests, and other years there's more requests than the previous year. So I think it's really critical to fund these projects. Board members, any other comments or questions? Elizabeth?
I just wanted to second that, Gus, because I do work with the Scenic River Land Trust, and these are the properties that we are trying to save from development. And they're very, very crucial. And this is all about, saving the woodlands and saving the acres. And I just want to second what you said, Gus, because like you said, these are in the pipeline, and that is substantial amount of acreage that we could save. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members? Any comments or questions?
No comments.
No, thank you.
Okay.
I believe there was one in the chat asking about the acronym MALP, MALPF. I believe this is
Yeah.
Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation.
Right. It's a mouthful, so we always just call it MALP, but that's correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's what I figured. I just wasn't sure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Christina.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Okay, moving forward, we're a little ahead of time here. Office of Emergency Management is scheduled for 10. Are they available now?
I do not see the Office of Emergency Management on the call. I do have on our schedule a little break or buffer time. I know we took a break earlier, but if we want to take 5 minutes to make a cup of coffee or anything, I can contact Office of Emergency Management and see if they can come in early.
Okay, so let's reschedule. Well, let's make 10 minutes.
All right.
I like it.
All right. I think we have a quorum of PAB members present. Naomi, are you ready to go? Naomi is ready. All right, we are recording. Gus, whenever you're ready to give the floor over to OEM.
Okay, it's 9:58. We're going to resume our budget presentation. And at this time, we'll hear from the Office of Emergency Management.
Unmute myself. Good morning, everyone. My name is Preeti Emmerich. I'm the director of the Arundel County Office of Emergency Management. So I will go ahead and share my presentation. All right, can everybody see that? And then let's do
Yes.
a slideshow, and can everybody see the full screen slideshow? All right, wonderful. We've talked about this project a couple of times, and so I am very excited and happy to report its progress. A little bit about the Office of Emergency Management. We oversee and coordinate the preparedness, response, and recovery actions to events, incidents, and disasters that require coordination. And so we are excited to have this new emergency operations center and to incorporate emergency communications into our office. Recent examples of what that coordination might look like have been the snowstorms the past couple of weeks. Again, coordinating with our internal partners and making sure our communities are ready for whatever may occur. Just to give you the highlighter page number, it is page 6 for our project. For the one pager, it is page 54. So what have we accomplished to date? We have completed the schematic design and we're now in the design development phase. Obviously, with developing this new facility, we are incorporating 911 communications into our office. So making sure that we have the organizational structure to align our positions, functions, and funding needs with our operational demands. And we held the first public meeting to introduce the project to our neighbors, provide that transparency, and to incorporate the feedback that they might have. The schematic design, we have had extensive coordination and meetings with our partners, including DPW, police, and fire. And we wanted to make sure, while preserving our critical functionality, that we worked within the constraints of what we have in terms of the budget and what this project could provide. And we've been working very well together to make sure that we hit all of our operational targets. So I just wanted to highlight some of the things we have again considered and to make sure that this project moves along within its budget. Reduction of square footage, modifying the raised flooring, deferring the installation of a traffic light to the phase 2 when the fire training academy comes along. But again, this has been a team effort and great coordination among the public safety agencies, and kudos to DPW for their project management of this project. Again, as I had mentioned, we hosted our first community meeting, which was in December 2024. That involved representatives from County Police, Fire, Office of Emergency Management, and Department of Public Works, and our architectural design firm, Mans Woodward. And we did discuss the land that we are going to use, a little bit of the layout of the site. As you can see, the purple is our building. And the proposed entrance and what the parking might look like around the building, and some of the outdoor space that we are considering. And again, we want to be good neighbors, so making sure the community understands the purpose of this facility, how this enhances our services, and again, what we plan to do with the development of the land. This is our capital budget request. As you can see, we are seeking an increase of that amount, highlighted in the red, the 1.7 million. And why this increase, right? This is a long-term project, and so construction hasn't started yet, so we anticipate increased costs with the actual construction of the building, of the labor expenses. And making these early funding adjustments ensures that we stay on track. This is a very important facility. We want to make sure there's continuity in our operational capacity and capabilities. So making these adjustments early ensures that we stay on track and that we get the building ready in time, and our operational capacity and capability will continue in terms of the project timeline. Funding and environmental considerations. As always, we are seeking other sources of funding, grants and earmarks. We understand that in terms of the overall budget, this is a large project, and so we are doing all that we can to make sure that we balance in terms of operational budget and any external money and grants, earmarks that we could get. And of course, making sure that our building is resilient. It houses very important operations for 911 call taking, but also the Emergency Operations Center. And of course, we want to respect the land that we are at and the surrounding neighborhoods. Just a little bit of what the designs look like right now on the outside. I will tell you, all the agencies are very excited for this building. It enhances our operation. It provides the space that is needed for the growth of the county, but also the growth of the 911 operations and emergency management. So we are looking forward not only in the increased space, the increased capacity for the technology that is developing, but also the organizational structure of the consolidation to better serve our communities. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. Open to questions.
Thank you very much. I know we've been talking about this for years and years, and it's good to see that it's finally coming through fruition. So can't wait for it to get constructed.
Oh, we are very excited and we can't wait either. So again, as you said, it's been many years in the development, so we're very happy with the progress.
Okay, thank you. Any board member questions? No questions?
None at this time.
Okay, Priti, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you all. Take care.
Okay, Jessica. We have inspections and permits next.
Yes, I do see Raghu is on the call. Raghu, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to a panelist. You will have to accept that so you can unmute yourself and share your screen. I'm also looking for Jim Johnson and Nathan. I know we are a minute early, so Raghu, if you can just ping them, please.
I think we can get started. Jessica, if you're waiting on INP, I mean, we can go ahead and get started. I want to be respectful of everybody's time too.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you for being early.
You want me to share my slide deck?
Yes, please.
Hang on just one second. Morning, everybody. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Raghu. I'm the Assistant Director for Inspections and Permits. Today, I'll be covering inspections and permits capital budget for FY26. We have two active projects that I'll be speaking about this morning. Our projects are on, for the highlighter report, they're on page 3. On the one pager, they are on page 24 and page 25 of the budget book. The first project that we have is C582700. This is on page 25 of the budget book. All capital projects, schools, libraries, trails, and parks that remove a certain percentage of trees on site as a part of the development process will have to mitigate for the forest loss through either reforestation, afforestation, or paying a fee in lieu for mitigation. What this project essentially does is it establishes a county mitigation bank, and the fee in lieu is paid into this capital project, essentially creating a self-funding mechanism. The county has two active mitigation projects, Crofton Civic Association site, which is about 3.5 acres, 3.3 acres. Rockhole Creek mitigation project, which is a county property, it's about 10 acres. The initial cost for the project was $250,000, which was a seed money to set the bank up. It was first approved in 2022. For FY25 activities, we have 3 activities that I do want to list. We have about $4,000 worth of work for plant maintenance to maintain plantings for the Crofton Civic Association Bank. We are looking to reforest about 1.1 acre-ish of an existing county utility site, which is currently not forested. We are also looking to reforest about half acre. We just settled on this property at the end of last month, and we do want to work on this sometime this early spring. We are not asking for any new funds in FY26. We do anticipate one payment coming in for a capital project, a fee in lieu payment, and it's about $118,000. This is the Crofton Civic Association site that I mentioned. It's about 3.2 acres. It was reforested about a year and a half ago. So this is the county utility site. That's about, as you can see, how barren that area is. This is what we are looking to reforest through this project. It's about 1.15 acres. We are currently looking to secure access from a property behind because all of this is thickly forested and vegetated. We don't want to disturb that area. We are working with, there is an active development right behind this property. We are looking to get access through this property. This is the property that we just settled on. There is about half acre that is not currently reforested. We are looking to reforest that through this project. The second project that we have is C531200. This is on page 24 of the one pager. This project essentially allows the county or the department to purchase property, put easements on property to expand and preserve property forestry cover throughout the county. We are currently working with stakeholders, both internal and external, to enhance our ability to find properties and preserve and purchase property through this project. For FY25, we were able to purchase a 10-acre parcel. We are currently working with Scenic River Land Trust to put a conservation easement on this property that will allow for the perpetual preservation and maintenance of that property. The purchase price was $675. The appraised value came out to be about $875,000. We are currently working with the developer to purchase or preserve another property up in Saverna Park. We trying to verify the details on the appraisal at this point. And we are asking for $500,000 from the reforestation fund for FY26. So just put things into context, this is Watershed. This is up in Laurel off of 198. Before somebody realizes that this property has development potential on it, there was an access issue. We wanted to purchase this property so that this doesn't look like this. This property doesn't look like this in the next 3, 4, 5 years. So we were hoping that this property had a lot of rich resources, had a lot of potential. So we thought preserving it enhances the county forestry goals. The third project, this is not an active project. It's a one-time grant funding to the Chesapeake Bay Trust Green Campus project. It was approved for the first time in FY24. And the one-time grant was $150,000. The agreement was processed at the tail end of FY24. We did not have any activity, and we are not asking for any new funds in FY26 for this project. That's the end of my presentation for INP. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Raghu, thank you for your presentation. Sounds like a lot of really good projects. So, board members, any questions?
Raghu, can you clarify? I'm sorry, Chairman. Yes, I have a question.
Yes,
I'm
Elizabeth.
sorry. Can you clarify, because OPZ we just heard from before took over the agricultural land trust from Recs and Parks, and so I'm trying to figure out how this falls in, how this works funding wise, because you're two different departments, but it sounds like we're overlapping.
That's a good question, Elizabeth. So these dollars are fee in lieu dollars, and they are specifically set aside to mitigate for forest loss through development projects. We have actually reached out to Office of Law to see if there isn't any overlap between the Office of Planning and Zoning program and INP program. Because I think the issue was whenever we reforest or preserve a property through fee in lieu dollars, it has to be perpetual conservation easement. And that, I think we were told previously, that may conflict with the use of that property for either ag purposes or preservation purposes. So, but I think there may be an opportunity to see if a farmer has, let's say, 100 acres of property, there may be an opportunity for us to go in and reforest, maybe 2 acre, 1 acre, 5 acres. Rockhole Creek was actually one of those, even though it did not have an ag preservation easement, it was a county property. It has actually a county park property that we leased to a farmer. So I don't have a legal answer for that question, but I think we are currently working, and Office of Planning and Zoning, when we asked that question previously, they said, we'll ask that question on a case-by-case basis. So that's something that I know they looking to hire a program manager. So we do want to open those lines of communication as they're working on projects.
That's great. And we talked about this, and I happen, for public disclosure, I am on the board of the Scenic River Land Trust. So I'm familiar and very excited about Myrtle Avenue. But I also, we talked about how important these projects are. And so we definitely want to conserve this land. As you can see, this is a perfect example of the importance. So we appreciate all that you're doing. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I would just like to say I share Elizabeth's comments and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Raghu, thank you, and we do support all your projects.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward, I know we're running ahead. Next on schedule is Health Department.
Yes.
Do we want to take a break, or are they ready?
I see Don and Courtney from the health department on the call. So we can promote them to panelists. You'll have to accept, it'll show something on your screen that you'll have to accept, so that you can unmute yourself and share screen.
Morning, everybody.
Good
Don
morning.
Kurian from the Health Department. Nice to see you all again this year. Let me get my pages.
Good morning, Don. How are you today?
I'm good, Gus. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Got a big weekend up your way this weekend. I wish the weather was a little nicer for you.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a lot of rain, but a lot of the fishermen will be out early to buy their new rods and whatever.
Everybody's got the itch waiting for spring.
That's for sure.
Can you guys see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
So this is of course the pages that are show Health Department on page 3 and 4 are projects, and then I have the one pagers, which are the most important for each of the individual projects. So I'll start with the demo fund, which is a fund that is shared by Health, Planning and Zoning under Zoning Enforcement and IMP. And as you can see, this has an increase this year. This is an increase that has been requested by IMP and Zoning, not Health, because they have a backlog of projects that they want to move forward. Their projects have to all be they have to have a court order to move their projects forward. So theirs take a little longer than Health's. What Health Department uses our fund for is abatement of vacant properties to do cleanups or boarding open to casual entry, or if we have a rodent infestation, we can go in there and eradicate the rodents so that it takes away an eyesore from the other parts of the neighborhood. Our next project is C501100, which is the Failed Sewage and Private Well Fund. This is still requesting the $80,000 that we normally request. This is a fund that we use for financially burdened individuals to repair their septics and replace their wells. We try to save this money for wells more than septics, and we try to use our bay restoration money because we get a lot more money from MDE in bay restoration. And if we can put in a nitrogen reducing unit, it saves taking away from any funding from this project. And then our last project for environmental health is C537700, septic system enhancements, which is indeed the bay restoration project that we get from MDE. 3.3 million. This pays for about 220 units, nitrogen reducing units for any projects that are in the critical area, as well as we try to eliminate anywhere where we have septic systems where there's public sewer available. This will pay for the connections to public sewer as well. Those are the environmental health projects. And if you have any questions, I'm available. And then we have one more project that Courtney will present. And this is her page.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is the 2-year capital project for UMBC's expansion and reno on the cardiac cath lab. We're in year 2. We expect the final disbursement of 500,000 of the 1.1 award to be distributed in FY26. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Donna, I'll comment, on the septic system and well. For anyone that's ever had a failing septic system or a well, it's critical to have those funds available because I know a well used to be 4,000 or 5,000, and now a well can be 30,000 or 40,000. Same thing with the septic system, and a lot of people aren't even aware that the potential cost of replacing either the well or the septic system. And when that comes around, it's usually an emergency type repair, and it's sudden. So I'm glad we have all the Bay Restoration Fund and so on to be able to help everyone with this.
Yeah, and our county is the county that gets the most funding every year, and we use just about every penny that we get through that fiscal year, and we constantly come back to MDE and ask for more funding. So we're recognized in the state as one of the best counties of the administration of this funding and getting those units put in and connections to public sewer where we can.
That's great and a good job. And I'll also say that the county has been very innovative in some of the installations of septic systems and using the BAT, best available technology. And I think I want to commend you and your staff on always being ahead of the curve.
Thank you, Gus. Yes, I'm truly blessed to have a staff that is so experienced. We have so many people that have been there for long periods of time that have been able to continue this work and do innovative work. And the state, recognizes that, and MDE sends people to us sometimes because we have that experience in our county. So it's nice to be, looked at as one of the models in the state.
Yes, very good. Melanie, comment?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just have a clarification. Are the Mayo tanks under DPW?
Yes, they are under DPW.
Just making sure. Thanks.
Yeah, and I know they're planning on replacing a lot of those Mayo tanks now that they've been in the ground for, 20 some years. So I know that that's a big project that DPW is working on.
It is. I hope I didn't, well, I'll certainly mention this again, but if I guess one thing I would see, I live on the Mayo Peninsula, so I have one. I see houses that are being built or demo rebuilt, and the developers or homeowners are not being required to replace those tanks at that time, or the county's not taking advantage of that. There's disturbance already, and trying to take advantage of that disturbance. I don't know the legalities or anything about it. I think it's something that the county should really consider as they try to make the best use of the time and the disruption that happens for that. So we'll talk to DPW about it.
Thank you. Our board members, any other questions or comments? Okay, Courtney and Don, thank you very much for your presentation, and thanks for being a little bit early.
Yeah, no, hopefully you get finished. Friday's a busy day, so hopefully you get finished. And Gus, by the way, my wife says hi because you guys went to high school together.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye. Okay, next we have roads and bridges.
Yes, we have Brian from Office of Transportation available. Thank you for being early. I'm going to promote you to a panelist, Brian. You'll see something on your screen that you should accept. All right, Brian, whenever you're ready, will Sam be joining you today?
He's supposed to be.
Let me check.
Yeah.
I don't see him. I will message him.
Are running early. We had scheduled to take a break at 10:30. If Sam Sneed isn't available, maybe we take that break and reconvene.
I just sent an email to Sam.
Okay.
He said he's hopping on.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate your flexibility.
Sorry. Are you gonna present the slides? You want me to present the slides?
I would appreciate it if you guys could run slides, but if you need me to, I can always do it. I see Sam is here. I just sent you over a panelist invite.
Are you seeing my slides?
Yep, they are loaded. So whenever you guys are ready, the floor is yours.
Good morning. My
Good
name
morning.
is Sam Sneed. I'm the Director of Transportation for the Office of Transportation. Thank you for taking the time as a Planning Advisory Board to review our capital improvement program proposal. I also have with me Brian Ulrich, our Planning Administrator. He'll be jointly presenting today. Next slide, please. So our capital improvement plan is born out of component plans of the long range plan. That's our long range plan for transportation for the county. And those component plans include the component plan, which is a corridor growth management plan, the complete streets guidance, major infrastructure and important facilities. Then we have our walk and roll plan, our transit development plan, our 5-year transit development plan. We have some updates as well. We have a pending ferry operations plan We also have a pending electric hybrid fleet transition plan. And we're working on a coordination plan with JMT to coordinate better with City of Annapolis and their transit as well. And then we have an approved Vision Zero action plan. So the majority or all of our projects are born out of one of these long range plans or component plans. Next slide, please. So one of our first proposals is an expansion of our fleet. We've had very good success with the transition to some electric shuttles for our fleet. We purchased 4 with a grant, federal grant, at no cost to the county last year. And we noticed a huge difference so far, even in the 6-month pilot, with the electric vehicles in terms of cost. There's basically no real maintenance associated with these electric vehicles because you don't have to do oil changes. You still do have to change tires, but the cost to charge is also lower than the fuel costs for vehicles of similar size. So I wanted to highlight that this is the first time we're proposing a bus fleet expansion in our capital budget, but it's something that we wanted to put forward to you for consideration. Next slide, please. The next project is our electric ferry project. We secured a federal grant to cover the cost of the majority of this project, and the CAO and CE also submitted additional requests to the state to supplement the project. It's comprised of 2 electric 50-passenger ferries and 2 charging locations, and the CE and CAO are pursuing a larger 150-passenger ferry to be supplemented with state funds. And this would operate between the City of Annapolis, Queen Anne's County, and Baltimore City. It would be a regional operation, and there would be a fare for this ferry. We're presently in the NEPA research phase, and we are also developing an operation plan, as I stated previously, just to parse out the hours of operation, how many trips per day, what months it would operate during the year. Next slide, please. The Odenton Mark Garage is a project that we've had in the queue for several years now. That'll be moving forward, hopefully with a groundbreaking in the coming fiscal year. And that'll house about 1,000 parking spaces and open up land for redevelopment in the Odenton area. Next slide, please. The Transportation Operations Facility is a project that we have in the queue now that we have secured the land in a prior budget. We're looking to build out the facility completely. The temporary facility was funded, and this is more of a complete build out to the maximum level. We do appreciate the funding in prior years for the temporary ops facility. We're presently in a rental facility, and the temporary facility design is almost complete. Brian, what stage are we with the temporary facility design?
We're in the final stages of the grading permit approval.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Next slide, please. And the I-97 US 50 to MD 32 project was originally going to be a managed lanes project at peak hour, but when further analysis was performed by SHA, they had determined that the safest path forward would be an additional lane to create what they call lane congruency throughout the corridor. So as of now, if you traveled this corridor, I'm sure most of you are aware, this alignment goes from 3 lanes to 2 lanes at this juncture of I-97. And it does create quite a traffic boondoggle and a lot of congestion, especially during the peak hour. So I just wanted to highlight that for you all and how it is an important project for our region because the only other two parallel routes that serve our county, Route 3 and Route 2, really become congested as a result. And this is a key project for our county, especially when navigating north and south, but also connecting to Route 50 and crossing over the Bay Bridge. Sometimes traffic, especially peak hour during summer travel days, can back up all the way to 97 as well. And with the lack of lanes, it can create a lot of complications. And we wouldn't fully fund the cost of the project. We'd be providing a match amount, and then state highways would be pulling in federal funds for the remainder of the construction cost.
That was my question. Before you leave this,
Sure.
Sam. Where are you? We just had an open house on the expansion of Route 2. And so I'm trying to figure out the timeline. Route 2 does not have the funding. They're in the design phase. So
Right.
Two-part question here. What phase are you in for this project, number one? And number two, didn't we just at our last meeting in January move funds for this project?
Yeah, so we requested that funds be moved so that they can continue beyond the 30% design in the prior meeting. That bill is up for council approval on Tuesday of next week. And if approved, then they would be pencils up. This is for matching the construction piece in the future budget years for the CIP.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And then in terms of the ties, that's actually a great question because, you know, widening Route 2 is still in the public outreach phase, and that involves a little bit different elements because there are sidewalk elements to that too. It's not just widening a high-speed corridor like I-97 is a lot different. Obviously, it's not a walkable corridor, but Route 2 is in a phase where we're still doing public engagement to really figure out what the public wants out of the alignment. And State Highways is engaging with the public to determine that. So we'll see what comes of the design, the final design for that particular segment of Route 2. Next slide, please. I'm going to turn it over to Brian for this particular trail segment.
Sure. This project is the South Shore to Poplar Trail Connector. We previously did a study under H 508421 to try to connect the trail system planned by the city of Annapolis to Parole. You can see there we're working with the city and the state on crossing the Naval Academy Bridge. The city is working on their West-East Express, kind of going from downtown, among other things. It connects both to that bridge area project, but coming from downtown out towards Parole, I think their project stops at Gibraltar. And so there's kind of a missing gap to get to, you know, Parole, the hospital, the mall. And we also have a project on Riva Road. So this ultimately will be able to tie people in all the way, stay to the Heritage Center, and a lot of the government offices over there, closer to where, you know, our office, state and federal and county offices are. So this project is part of a kind of a network to tie everybody together. And then, oh, well, I don't know if you've jumped over to the roads and bridges. That 97 was the roads and bridges. So I don't know if you're following on your highlighter or your one pagers, but I believe it's page 18 of the highlighter, or 168 in the one pagers. Although it's a couple down. So now we'll just go through one by one. These are just existing projects that have adjustments, and jump in and stop me if you've got questions, but we'll run through them pretty quick. Town Center to Reese Road. This is just an updated cost due to the latest estimate and an adjustment in scope. Picking up a little bit of extra sidewalk that was part of another project just because it made sense for tie-in. H508400 Sidewalk Bikeway Fund. It's just funding in 31 consistent with the program. Riva Road at Governor's Bridge. This is a give back due to the completion of the project. So there was a little bit of money remaining, give back to the CIP. I was going to highlight transportation facilities planning. It's funding consistent in 31 with the program, but there is a bump up in 26 of 600,000. Just showing the list of the existing studies and some of the costs, just to show why we need an increase. And I believe our next study is the South County Mobility Study, which has been requested by the Transportation Commission, trying to look at mobility options in southern Arundel County. And then continuing again through the projects, head improvements SHA, this is sidewalk projects on state roads, funding in 31 consistent with the program. Next project is Odenton Grid Streets. This is a fairly substantial increase. There was a expansion of scope to include, I believe it's storm drainage and stormwater management that I believe wasn't part of the previous scope, but building out the grid streets in Odenton to encourage development in the TOD, and kind of avoid the patchwork hodgepodge that has happened with, one development here on one side and one development there on the other side. 7 Harmon's PedNet, funding in 31 consistent with the program. Hanover Road border improvements, no change in the program, but funding in 29 as previously approved. Tanyard Spring Lanes extension. This is a completed project. So again, there's a little bit of give back due to the completion of the project. Monterey Avenue sidewalk improvements, increased cost due to the latest estimate. Race Road Jessup Village, increased cost due to the latest estimate. Jumpers Hole Road improvements, again, increased cost due to the latest estimate, as projects work through, get better estimates. Maryland 214 in Lock Haven. This is the county's share of the project, the projected share of the project. This is a decrease due to the latest estimate in 26. And this and a couple of the other ones, this is where we are leveraging federal funds. So the county has our share reserved. Transit improvements project funding in 30, this is, shelter stop improvements at bus stops, funding in 31 consistent with the program. Route 2 improvement project. This is the one that Elizabeth referenced. Again, slight decrease in 26 due to the latest estimate. This is just reserving our share, although the state hasn't fully allocated their share. We've allocated what we think our share will be in the, or at least programmed it in the program. Route 3 project, increased cost due to the latest estimate based on their PI, 30% design plans. Safety improvements on SHA roads, funding in 31 consistent with the program. Duval Highway access improvements, increased cost due to the latest estimate. Solly Road shared use path, increased cost due to escalation in 27. This is just projecting what the cost increases will be over time. No work has started on that. Conway Road improvements, increased cost due to the latest estimates. Same with Jumpers Hole from Route 2 to 177 or Mountain Road. Naval Academy Bridge area bike improvements. This is a decreased cost due to the latest estimate and also sliding the construction a little bit further into the program based on the delays of the state's design work. New Cut Crane Highway sidewalk, increased cost due to expanded scope. So a lot of this sidewalk work on New Cut, familiar near Severn Run High School, has been completed. There was some work on Grover as well. And this is an extension of the path they put in along Grover to Oakdale subdivision to connect that neighborhood in so they can walk to school as well. Forest Drive Maryland 665 intersection improvements. This would be potentially restoring if the FY25 transfer that we presented to you guys goes through, then, you know, this was just kind of a loan from this project to that project to keep 97 going. So this would restore the money to the 665 Forest Drive, Chinkton Round Road intersection improvement project, as that again is also delayed a little bit with state design.
Yeah, and I wanted to interject here, especially with Forest Drive, we have a data dashboard, and this is one of our highest crash corridors in the county. And I really want to emphasize the importance of this safety project moving forward before Brian moved on to the next project.
Yeah, and you'll see later. So this is there's kind of two components of the Forest Drive. This is the intersection improvement, and there is I believe there was a fatality at this intersection, and so this intersection includes bike and ped access improvements as well. And then there's another project I'll get into in a minute of more Forest Drive safety stuff. But this is kind of the state intersection project. And then Ridge Road, increased cost of the latest estimate and sliding the construction into the program a little bit further due to the progress on the design side. So last grouping of projects, Riva Road shared use path, no change in the fund in the program, but just funding in 27-28 as previously approved. BWA trail extension and Belgrove Road safety improvements, cost adjustments due to the latest estimates. Safe routes to transit funding in 31 consistent with the program. And then a couple of increases for implementation. So Brooklyn Park mobility improvements, this project was added, I'm not sure if it was last year, but recently, based on the Brooklyn Park mobility study that we did, there's some further refinements that that we have to do. And so this would be adding some construction to implement some of the recommendations from the studies into the program. And similarly, Forest Drive safety improvements, there was some short-term safety improvements, study and short-term safety improvements that were added last year. This is the county section of Forest Drive. And again, this would be looking to add some of those medium and long-term safety improvement projects to the program in 28 and 31. And this is, again, like Sam said, one of our major crash corridors in the county. And the last project with funding is Stevenson Drive school access improvements. No change again in the funding, but funding consistent with the program or as a previously approved. Those are the projects that had funding changes. Of course, there's still some active projects that do not need additional funds at this time as well. So if you have any questions about any of these, feel free to hop in.
I do, Chair.
Thank you, Brian and Sam. Boy, there's a lot of moving parts there. That covers a lot of area. I have some comments, but go ahead, Melanie. We'll hear from you now, please.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. I've got a few things I want to ask. Actually, what do you feel from a federal standpoint? I have a question about federal impact, and one is about funding and any federal funds that may or may not have been coming in this direction that might be impacted. And second would be the impact to increased road traffic as federal workers go back to offices. What is the plan, or what are you observing, or how do we kind of digest that impact on us?
So for the first question, we've been giving mixed guidance depending on which agency reached out to us. So MDOT SHA spoke with me yesterday evening, and they informed us that any obligated funds are basically those committed funds with agreements in place are safe to continue for reimbursements. But as we move forward and apply for new grants, those aren't necessarily insured. So the majority of the projects that we discussed have agreements in place, but we do have concerns about projects that don't have agreements in place. And I just want to be fully transparent, honest with you. Those projects would not be able to move forward without the federal portion of the funds if they don't have an agreement in place. And we'd have to reconvene if we were made aware in those particular situations. And we'd have to highlight, which projects that have a substantial amount of federal funding could not move forward. So we'd make you aware once we were made aware by the federal agency and the state agency. And then it's a similar type of guidance from FTA and MTA regarding obligated projects. For the most part, we have committed grant agreements in place, and we're the sub-grantee. So we have to be notified by MTA or SHA as to whether their agreement in place is not established. So that's the first part of your question. I hope I answered the best of my ability and based on the guidance I've been given by the agencies in our law office at this time. The second, related to federal workers going back to work, you are correct. Several agencies have called workers back in different ways. Some have called them back in, a few days a week. Others have called them back in fully for 5 days a week. The impact we wouldn't see necessarily in the immediacy because they're all staggered. Different agencies have established different deadlines, but as they start to go back to work, we will see increased congestion along the roadways and on the transit system, especially as they go to Washington, D.C. We've already seen some of that congestion returned to the WMATA stations that are heavily packed at this point in time at certain times of day because of those agencies calling employees back. So I anticipate there will be an increase in congestion as more agencies are called back in for in-person work.
Right, of course. So to that point, could you highlight anything in this fiscal year 26 or and then possibly in the future projects that are specifically about transit and can increase the availability and access to transit as opposed to just continuing to widen roads?
So the Odenton Garage project is pretty substantial because what we'll be doing is consolidating spaces into one location right adjacent to the station. And the MARC will most likely be used more frequently when people are called back in for federal work. That's our highest used MARC station in our county to get access to DC. So that's a pretty substantial project. And then we are requesting funding for vehicles so that we can potentially increase frequency and service and add some future lines. We have a parallel operations budget that we will be presenting this spring, and that includes additional transit expansion. One of the proposed lines that accesses DC is between New Carrollton and Annapolis, but we can't fully commit the capital vehicles to that line until we get approval for the operations budget. And those two presentations run parallel, even though they're interlinked. So that would be another potential project that would be beneficial moving forward and could ease congestion going east-west.
And we've also got the operations facility and then some of the other projects that aren't necessarily asking for additional funding in 26, but are still being worked on, like the Rural Transportation Center, the Arundel Mills bus stop enhancements, transit improvements. There's numerous transit projects in the capital program, smaller.
Okay. Well, I'll speak for myself here, but I would definitely be prioritizing funding on more transit and impacting more of our citizens in that way than single-use vehicles. Can you, I guess my last question then would be, can't go without asking about Maryland 214 and the decreased cost. Is there a decrease in the scope, or what? Can you just tell me what the status is on that?
No, it's just based on the updated estimate that they've provided us that we're just programming the match. I mean, it's not a big decrease, but just making the programming work. And as they continue a design, the estimate will probably adjust again. So,
and the how's the land acquisition going for that expansion?
They will not start on that till they probably get toward more closer till 2/3, 60% design. So I don't have the exact date for that, and off the top of my head, but I can get that to you, kind of what the status of that design is. But they had the PI estimate they're working on towards what they call semifinal is their 60% review, and then once they get to semifinal, they do more detailed like stormwater and some of the more detailed design to know exactly what kind of right of way they need. Once they get that level of design complete, then they can start drafting up and talking to property owners and looking at each property specifically. So that won't, the acquisition itself won't start until that milestone is reached, and I can get that date for you.
Okay, thank you so much, Brian.
Yep.
Thank you, Melanie. Board members, other questions or comments?
I do when you're ready.
Okay, Lawrence, go ahead.
For your Ridgeway improvements and your Belgrove improvements, does that include the stormwater assessment and construction? And then I guess what else does it entail?
Yeah, so the Belgrove Road, well, both of them include stormwater management and for the project, but the Belgrove Road safety improvements is primarily adding bike and ped infrastructure along that Belgrove Road. There are some sidewalks in sections and some missing sections of sidewalks. So it's kind of going through comprehensively and cleaning it up, make sure there's adequate infrastructure for the entire corridor from to Ritchie Highway. It starts over, there's the park there. It's close to that neighborhood that's by the light rail station, but it starts kind of east of there. And then
I guess my question on that one would be, are you widening the road for more traffic, or are you trying to slow down the traffic that is currently going through the neighborhood?
No, right. There's no widening. It's mostly a streetscape, increasing, adding bike ped infrastructure to make it safer. And again, we have not started design on that specifically, but yeah, it would be more traffic, calming and trying to make it safer for people to walk and bike in the area. And we're not widening the road for sure, and not trying to increase speeds.
Yeah, I live right there. That's why I was gonna make sure like where we are going with that.
Yeah.
Because it is a big ticket item, and I know there's a lot of things that are needed right there. So I wanted to kind of make sure that they were going on the right path. And since you haven't even gotten, so you're still in design phase then, I assume, right?
Yeah, so there's a BWI trail. So that project has two components. The BWI trail extension, that is in active design. That's nearing completion of the design. And that's extending the trail from, I believe, West Maple up to the light rail station. So that's active design, nearing completion. And then the Belgrove Road section will begin design. I think they're getting a consultant on board, or got a consultant on board, but the active design hadn't started. And that's one of the ones that we put in the scope, that they have to have community engagement kind of at the onset of design to make sure that they're getting community feedback before they start design. And then
I went to a couple of them, but go ahead. I was listening.
Yeah. And then the Ridge Road improvements is kind of similar. It's really kind of a retrofit to make sure. So I don't know if you're familiar, like the Marley Neck area, same kind of thing that we talked about maybe with the Uncrew streets. When one development comes in on one side and then the other side, you kind of get patchwork because they only do what's in front of them, or they can't acquire right away to kind of really clean it up. So same kind of thing on Ridge Road. There's developments coming in here on one side and then another proposed on another side. So this project is kind of designed the ultimate cross section And then as the developments come in, they'll build their section, and then the county can, come in and ideally clean it up at, after, as developments come in, fix sections so there's not kind of wiggling in and out of a roadway or not unsafe, like a section missing. But again, it's not adding lanes or anything. It's primarily to make sure there's sidewalk and I believe there's a bike lane proposed. But it's cleaning it up, make sure as development comes in that there's not missing sections or unsafe areas. So kind of trying to make a master plan for that area and then ensure it gets developed built correctly as the developments come in.
Gotcha. So that's more of a pre-strike on that.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
And I guess Sam's
Hello?
boondoggle.
Oh, we lost you. We lost you. What?
Oh, sorry. You had said, what is boondoggle?
Boondoggle? I mean, maybe I got that from my dad growing up. But it's I guess a mangled up bad type situation.
I wasn't sure, and it made me giggle, so I figured I'd ask you.
I guess that's the slang term he passed on to me.
Okay, I do have some comments and questions, but is there any other board members that have questions? Okay, I'm going to just put this out there and then you can answer it, Will. One, how's the bike path coming for going to Sandy Point? I see construction, and give us a timeline on that. Two, Jumpers Hole Road from Ritchie Highway to Mountain Road. I know that's a big project and it's a mess there. Does that project intend on increasing the lanes that go under Route 100 from 2 to 4 lanes? Next, Bay Bridge, and that ties in with the ferries. I've always wondered why there wasn't ferry service. When I look out my window, I look across the bay, and from Pasadena to Rock Hall, if there was a ferry, we could get over there in about 20 or 25 minutes, maybe even less. And for me to drive to Rock Hall probably takes about an hour to hour and a half. So that's much needed transportation there. And then I guess final, a lot of times everyone takes transportation for granted. And this year, if anybody would have thought that there would be no Key Bridge, we would say, oh no, you're crazy. But I actually heard the bridge woke me up when it fell down, shook the house. I looked out the window, it was dark and I didn't see anything, but I thought, well, that was loud. And then a couple hours later, the bridge is gone. Or I determined the bridge was gone, and who would have ever thought that could happen? So transportation is so important, and sometimes we take it for granted. So I'll just put those comments and questions out there and wait for response. Thanks.
I can jump in on a couple of those. As far as the Broadneck Trail extension to Sandy Point, I know they hit some delays. I can get the actual status. I don't have that on the top of my hand, but we can send that to you.
I can get you that. I can tell you that.
Go ahead, Dave.
Right. So for the trail, Mr. Kurtz, we're basically held up because of the weather on doing the final paving right now. And right now, the plan is for that, once it's paved, to be done either late March or middle of April, depending on the weather conditions.
Thank you.
And then was Jumpers Hole the next one? Jumpers Hole from Route 2, Ritchie Highway to Mountain Road. That again is another similar situation. We are adding a signal at there's an intersection there where all the townhouses, apartments are, Morningstar, and I can't remember the name of the other side, but so that's adding a signal there, but primarily otherwise it's adding sidewalk or shade use path on one side or the other. There may be some intersection improvements on either end, but we're not adding lanes through the middle. We're trying to, and actually we're, again, same kind of thing, worried about, traffic going through there at higher speeds with all the residents and the homes so close to the road. So trying to calm the traffic and add a safe place for people to walk and bike to get to either end. But there may be some intersection improvements at either end. But primarily it's a bike ped safety project through there. And then Sam, I don't know if you talk about Bay Bridge, but obviously.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the Bay Bridge. There are a few things going on from MDTA's perspective. They're currently in design for protective barriers on both sides of the Bay Bridge, and then in light of the FSK collapse, which was a tragedy, they accelerated design on those protective barriers on both sides of the Bay Bridge. We've been working with MDTA on the Bay Bridge NEPA process, and they've been forwarding us information about how potentially they design the new bridges, and they're coming to a close on selection of alternatives, and we'll provide that information once we have it from them. In terms of FSK, that project, they are kicking off the reconstruction of the bridge in spring, and they'll begin destroying the old pilings as soon as March. So they're making really good progress. They're hoping for an opening in I believe 28. And with that particular project, it'll be a suspension bridge, and it'll have newly designed protective barriers on both sides to protect the pilings and support structure for the bridge. In terms of the ferry, right now, how the ferry's alignment's constructed, it'll go to Queen Anne's County, most likely Mattapique, and Chesapeake Bay Beach Club are the two top destinations there. But the expanded study done by the conglomerate of jurisdictions included a Rock Hall stop. So I wouldn't rule that out as a future potential location. And I know you highlighted it. With some of the ferries that we had tested when we went abroad, they had promised to get across from point to point 15 minutes, especially the hydrofoil electric ferries. And we had a chance to actually ride in them and experience those ferries firsthand. And they can move pretty quickly, and they have great docking capability, especially for paratransit elderly or bicycles. They can simply drop their 8 to 12 foot wide ramp down on even a floating dock, and you can roll right off or walk right off. There's a lot of potential for ferries, and the study included multiple locations along the bay, not just the ones that we're trying to tackle in this first phase.
Thank you. I think that answers all the questions. You guys have a lot of moving parts. Board members, any other questions, comments?
No, I
Okay,
don't have
with that, thank you very much for your presentation.
We appreciate your time. Thank you all.
Okay, Jessica, how are we looking? We have the library.
We do have library. I think we could take a brief break if folks need it, and then come back for libraries at 11:15.
Or do we just do libraries now and then take a longer lunch break? Because after libraries, we have lunch and then reconvene at 1.
Yeah, if Skip's ready, we can bring them on now, and then we'll have a longer lunch break.
Okay. I see Maribel is here. I'm going to promote you to a panelist. Let me see.
I want to be sure we have Rudy and Cedric and Kathy. I think they were thinking it might be 11:15. So let me quick send them an email.
Thank you.
We appreciate your flexibility with time.
So Gus, it looks like Maribel and Rudy are both here. They're the most important people to be here. Maribel is going to do our presentation. So if you're ready for us, we will get started.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's go.
Okay, so first of all, we always think about you guys. We look forward to this meeting every year. It's good to see you and to be able to present our priorities in the capital plan to this planning advisory board. You all are very dedicated people providing a great service. So with that, I'm going to let Maribel take it away. She has a slide presentation ready, and we'll take questions at the end.
And it would help if I unmuted myself. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Maribel Ibrahim. As Skip said, it's my privilege to present to you our capital improvement plan. And I just wanted to start with a little anecdote on this beautiful Valentine's Day. Anytime I tell people that I work at the library, bar none, they always say, "You work at the library? I love the library." And so I feel like today is a perfect day to show library love. And we're going to show you how much we love the Planning Advisory Board with the plans that we did last year and the plans that we have for this year. So without further ado, for last year, we had 3 modest goals. We wanted to replace furnishings at our library. We also had a Brooklyn Park feasibility study that was conducted, and we were hoping to expand the Deal Library. For the library furnishings replacement, we're happy to report that we had 6 shelving projects started and 3 flooring replacements completed in the last year. And prior to that, we had 6 carpet replacements done. So we really have done some heavy lifting with our upgrading of our libraries. For Brooklyn Park, we did complete a feasibility study, and we've elevated this project to a renovation, which I'll detail a little bit more further in the presentation. And for Deal Library, while we didn't get the funding for the expansion like we had hoped, we did start a feasibility study, and that design is starting, or that analysis is starting as of December 2024. So we're hoping by this time next year that we'll have some promising results on what the direction would be for the Deal Library. Before I go further ado, I wanted to give you some before and after pictures for our renovation. This is a picture of our Crofton Library, and this is our lobby area. The left represents what we had before, which in its day 20 years ago was fine, but it was starting to look very run down, very worn down, and the repair and renovations funds allowed us to make a major refresh with a good use of those funds. So the right, you can see the improved library. This is an example of our public space close to our children's area. And this is an example of the entrance to the library. So just with a few minor things, paint, new shelving, and flooring, we really were able to upgrade the look of this very beautiful library, which has stood the test of time. And now we're just letting it stretch out for a little bit longer. Other branches that took advantage of our repair and renovations refreshes was the Eastport Library. So you can see there they inherited new shelving and very newly needed carpeting. And also at last year's PAB, we did not present anything about Mountain Road or Riviera Beach because they weren't open yet. We were happy to announce that Mountain Road opened in January of 2025. So here's a look-see at the new Mountain Road Library, which the community loves. It's in the Lakeshore area, and we were able to open that and resolve long-standing problems at our previous location. And of course, the crown jewel Riviera Beach, we were able to finally successfully open that in April 2024. The library is loved by the community. The study rooms and all the spaces that are used, we have to reserve them. And usually, if you don't reserve it within 2 weeks, you're not going to be able to get the space. So it's loved by the community. They've been waiting for this library for a very long time. And we're very happy to announce, even though it was slated for 24, that we did open it in 25. So Anne Arundel 2040, an investment in the library is an investment in Anne Arundel 2040. Out of the 4 impact areas, we impact all 4. For the natural environment, all of our landscaping takes into account stormwater conservation, and we go to great lengths to try and use native plantings and low maintenance plantings so that the areas can reduce soil erosion and things like that. So unfortunately, it's a competition with that and parking, but the conservation has been a very important ingredient for all of our new libraries. For the built environment, like I said before, we had 8 refreshes in the last few years and 4 new locations. So that's nothing to sneeze at. And that really is due to the county's generosity and your board's approval of many of these projects. So we're extremely thankful for that. For healthy communities, we've really stepped up our game in partnering with a lot of community agencies. We have community pantries at some of our libraries. Almost every one of our libraries has a caring cupboard, which is sort of like a little place where you can drop off food or take food, and it's run or used by customers. We have a Farm Unity community farm at our Crofton Library, making great use of the outdoor space there. And we've got a lot of partner programming. We have Lunch with a Cop. We have legal programming, a Pause to Read, which allows children to gain confidence in reading by reading to their pets. And we're really excited about our newest partnership with the Office of Planning and Zoning with the Archaeology Lab that will be featured in our Glen Burnie Library. So communities, the library is at the forefront of getting involved everywhere and anywhere in the community. And lastly, with the healthy economy, the library has always provided job seeker training, but right now, more importantly, especially as COVID has hit, we have collaboration rooms, which surprisingly are being used more by entrepreneurs and people that need to conduct interviews with Zoom. So these collaboration rooms have really been a boon to people really trying to get either training or advance their position with new work. So investing in the library is investing in Anne Arundel's economy. So for 2026, we have three priorities. The first is we would like to increase our repair and renovations from $350,000 to $400,000 annually. Next, we'd like to renovate the Brooklyn Park Library. And lastly, of course, we'd like to continue to maintain funding for Glen Burnie and Millersville new building projects. I'm happy to report that the Glen Burnie design is in full swing, and we're very excited about that project. So for library repair and renovations, right now, the average cost for replacing the flooring, repainting, and shelving pretty much eats up half of our repair and renovations for the whole system for the whole year. And this is why I'm looking to add an increase of $50,000. We needed to defer the planned refresh that we had for Deal this year because we simply ran out of funds. So we're hoping to do that one next year, and we're hoping that with this increase, we'll be able to accelerate and complete the last 4 branches that need a refresh within the next 2 to 3 years. For Brooklyn Park, the feasibility study made a great determination that we were able to have a new conference room, expanded staff area on one floor, an elevator to access both of our floors, and a repair for a significant long-standing drainage issue that we've been dealing with on the lower level. So our funding request for that project is $4.2 million. This plan here demonstrates the impact of what we would like to envision at Brooklyn Park. The green areas represent what is relatively untouched, the existing areas. The yellow areas represent the circulation or the pathways that the customers will make between the first and second floors. And the blue areas and there's our little elevator right there. The blue areas represent all the amenities that we'll be able to add as a result of this project. One of the main amenities is the staff room. When this project or when this library was originally designed, it was scheduled to fit 4 to 5 staff people. We now have upwards of 13 to 17 staff people in the library. So clearly the existing staff space just cannot support the work that we need. We're also able to add 2 additional bathrooms upstairs. We currently have 2 bathrooms, and now we would have 4 upstairs. And also on the end, without any major impact to the green areas, which is what the customers would be using. Downstairs, we would continue to have our meeting room, but we also have a nice conference room that we would be able to use for either branch meetings for branch staff or for the public. We also have space for this office area, which is currently being used for staff and was a pantry area or a closet, but we've had to be creative and use it for existing staff. That space would continue to be there, and we also have 2 bathrooms downstairs. So for $4.2 million, we really resolve a lot of long-standing problems with the Brooklyn Park Library, and we fulfill our ADA requirement to provide access, suitable access to both levels. This is our highlighter report, and I'm very happy to report that all of the projects that started prior to 2025 have been completed, such as Rivera Beach and Mountain Road, and all the projects that we intend for 25 are all underway. So again, we pride ourselves on making judicious use of the funds that we have and making sure that we're spending it responsibly, because we know that money isn't there to just spread around, and we want to be very judicious with our funds. The Glen Burnie Library, like I said, the design started already in December, and the Brooklyn Park Elevator Library, we are actually able to use design funds that were already encumbered in 25 to begin design development of our construction. And so we're hopeful that by the time that process is finished, we'll be able to start the construction of that library in 2026. And let's see, I believe that's it for that section. And now I am ready for questions.
Thank you very much, Maribel. I do have the first question is with Glen Burnie Library. Is there a temporary location that we have for the construction during the construction process?
Yes, there is a plan for a temporary location. Right now, it's too preliminary to tell where that location is going to be. We typically start working with real estate to start looking for a location about 6 months prior to construction. And being that we're still in the design phase, it's still very early. However, we have committed funds for the temporary library location.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I will comment about the Rivera Beach Library. I know there's a lot of traffic there, foot traffic. A lot of people have commented how beautiful the building is and how much needed. So it's good to see that is finally open, and great job.
Thank you. We're really thankful as well. Thank you very much.
Board members, any other questions or comments?
Chair,
Elizabeth?
you hear me? Yeah, I'm not. I'm curious about the Brooklyn Park. Originally, you were asking for money to renovate, to put an elevator in, and now it looks like you're asking for a complete renovation. Can you expand, please?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, last year when we presented the project, I think the request was for $3 million, and the initial intent was for the elevator, but we had always considered a space study to account for the problems that we had with our staff areas and to also make the space more accessible and available. We hadn't fleshed all that stuff out in the previous ask, but we were hoping to do this space study. I don't know if that was communicated as well. I think the idea was, oh, it's just an elevator and it's going to cost $3 million, and that's too expensive. So,
Ms. Rosberg, let me just add to that. I may have misled a little bit because I had my own personal attention was really focused on the elevator, but as Maribel said, it is a complete renovation, and it's very much needed. And I think that community will really appreciate it if we can get this thing done. But I appreciate you asking. Yeah.
Well, no, I appreciate it because I do remember the elevator was incredibly expensive, but I thought it was like, I don't know, 80,000 or something. But anyway,
just the elevator, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, that's an expensive elevator, obviously. But also, with that, is there community space? Because I know that that's a big issue in that area. I don't think that changes any space, right?
Well, ironically, I can go ahead and answer that question.
Right, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but ironically, we do have, the county has undertaken a new project for the Brooklyn Heights Park, which is co-located with the library. It literally is adjacent to the library, and that is actually going to include a community center. So there will be a building built there.
Right.
It's almost kind of a shame that we couldn't have done it all together and had the library sort of be part of that project. But that project is already, the building is already in schematic design, and construction is already underway for the recreational park, which will include basketball courts, tennis courts, pickleball, and a pad site for the community center. And it literally is, you drive up the entranceway to Brooklyn Park Library, and instead of turning right to go into the library, you go straight back, and that's where the park and the community center is. So
in the library itself, we do have the community room, and this does have an expansion of space with that conference room to be able to provide a little different type of space within the library. A lot of times people in the upstairs area are meeting kind of in the far back side on the adult side of the library, and they'll kind of pull up a few chairs. I've had a meeting or two that way myself. But yeah, these collaboration spaces and study rooms for business meetings, all that's been pretty important as we've had this development of our library system the past decade.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarifications and answers.
absolutely.
Okay, board members, any other questions or comments?
So Brooklyn Park is my personal library, so I believe in the expansion. So
That's awesome. Thank you. It's a great library. It's a beautiful library, wonderful kind of design and architecture, and the ceiling beams. I mean, it's really a nice library, and I think that Maribel and the team and Rudy, they've been working quite a lot to try. And actually, Katie Zawadny, the manager there, they've all been working to make it a welcoming space, to build the programming. So I'm glad you like it and use it, Mr. Blevins.
Yeah, in fact, Mr. Blevins, the Brooklyn Library, when we didn't receive the funding last year for the elevator, we knew we had to refresh the location. It sorely needed it. So we literally just opened it a couple of days ago. It's got new shelving. We received new carpet in there 2 years ago, and we essentially have repainted quite a bit of the library. So if you take a look-see in there now, you will see a very bright, open space that's been modernized as much as possible. We didn't do the bathrooms yet, but that will at least allow the residents of Brooklyn Park to enjoy a very nice library, and then having this project approved will allow us to really give them a lot more amenities as well. So thank you.
yeah, there's also some transportation stuff I'm pushing to make sure that happens for mobility to that library.
Excellent.
Mr. Kurtz, I realize I've got several of my executive team here that I'd like to quickly introduce. Of course, Rudy Rodella is our Chief Technology Officer, so he oversees facilities capital projects, which is Maribel's group. He also oversees our materials management and our IT. Cedric Grant is our Chief Financial Officer. Coven Roundtree is our Chief of Human Resources. Kathy Hollerbach is our Chief Operating Officer, so she's in charge of public services, branch management, programming, and outreach. And not elevated to a panelist, but Kathleen Sparrow is the Executive Director of the Library Foundation. She's not on screen here, but she is with us today. So we really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone. I'll also comment about Brooklyn Park area in general. There's a lot of growth there. There's a lot of new houses and many more new houses to come. So I believe you're definitely going to see an increase in usage in the future. So I know that renovation is much needed. Board members, any other comments?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay, well,
thank you.
Thank you.
Skip and Maribel and everyone for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Jessica, with that, Jessica or Michael, do we have anything else before we need to bring up before we break?
I do not think
No.
so. Go ahead, Jesse.
I was just
I
gonna say-
motioned,
Oh, go
I
ahead.
motioned to break for lunch.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded, and I think it's a great idea. We're going to break for lunch. It's 11:30 right now. We'll be back at 1 o'clock.
Quick question. Can I leave the meeting or do I just turn everything off or I can
Yeah.
leave. Okay.
Everyone but me can leave. And so that way you can just come back in using the same link a little bit before 1.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
And then Gus, if you just want to turn it over to Board of Ed for their presentation.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Welcome back, everyone. It's February 14th, 1 p.m. We're going to resume our PA board meeting. And so far, everything's went well. And now we welcome the Board of Education. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much. It's nice to see everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present this afternoon. My name is Bill Heiser, Chief Operating Officer, and I'm joined by Kyle Roof, the Director of Facilities, and Sandy Hughes from our Facilities Division. Kyle and I will be presenting today. And so with that, let me take you through the first part, and then Kyle will take the second half. So in this year's budget, we are requesting $204,679 million. This is an increase of $20 million from the FY25 approved budget and is in alignment with the 6-year plan approved by the County Council. This money will be used to support $138 million in major capital projects and $66 million in recurring capital renewal projects. Our request for recurring programs is approximately $66.7 million. Many of these projects originate from the Comprehensive Maintenance Plan. Most of the categories are locally funded except for building systemic renovations and the Aging Schools Program, to which the state contributes funding. 2 projects to note include building system renovation or systemics. This program specifically is used to whittle away at the $796 million list of capital renewal needs. We are requesting $32.9 million in FY26. This is a stated funded program, and we have historically been successful in getting support from our state partners in funding these larger system renovation projects. The state and local split for these projects is typically 50-50, but the state has incentives for extending the useful life of components and for concentration in poverty. Funding in FY26 will go towards larger systemic projects at Glen Burnie High School, Lindale Middle School, Arundel High School, Van Bachlen Elementary School, Annapolis High School, and Severn Elementary School. Smaller systemic projects under $1 million are also being requested for Broadneck Elementary School, Jones Elementary, and Piney Orchard. Next category, roof replacement. We're requesting $6 million in FY26 and $7 million annually thereafter. This money will go towards replacement of our aging and deteriorating roofs. Roofing and HVAC projects represent the 2 highest need categories of our $796 million deferred maintenance backlog. We have $221 million in roofing needs over the next 10 years and an immediate need for $29 million. The $6 million request in FY26 will fund approximately 2.5 elementary school projects, but we are increasing this request to $7 million to help address the growing needs at secondary schools where costs for a single roofing project are at or above $7 million. As a reminder, the blue bar at the top of the slide indicates our funding request broken down into state and county funding buckets. We are requesting $9.2 million in FY26 to fund construction of a replacement school bus facility. AACPS currently operates a transportation administration building in Millersville and a bus service and parking lot in Pasadena. The goal of this project is to combine those two sites and provide upgrades to meet the current and future demands of the school's transportation division. We are requesting $5 million per year to meet the pre-K mandates of Blueprint. With this funding, we plan on expanding early education centers in several high-need areas of the county and upgrading existing spaces within our buildings to meet the pre-K demand. Designs for a renovation of the Carver Staff Development Center are currently underway, and we anticipate additional centers in the Old Mill, Meade, and Glen Burnie areas. We are requesting $4 million in FY26 for additions. We're continuing to see growth in the western area of the county, and our request for local funds will be used to support a future addition project. The project location will be dependent on the results of redistricting and current enrollment patterns and projections. Phase 1 redistricting went into effect this school year and reduced the overcrowding through the northern portion of the county. But there remain schools within the southern portion of the county where overcrowding is occurring. As we move into Phase 2 redistricting, we hope to address those issues and reduce the need for classroom additions.
The next project is CAT North. This project broke ground in the summer of 2024, and the project will be completed for the 27-28 school year. The center is being constructed at the Old Mill complex, adjacent to the footprint of the vacated Old Mill Middle School South. Our request is for $13 million in local funding. State funding was secured during the prior 2 fiscal years. Old Mill High School will utilize the same prototype design as Severn Run High School and Crofton High School. The school will be located on the Old Mill complex near the current baseball and softball fields. Our request is for $77 million, and that is split between local and state funds. The project bid yesterday, and pending approval of funding, the school will be occupied for the 28-29 school year. Old Mill Middle School North will utilize that same prototype design that we used at Old Mill Middle School South. The school is will be located at the current CAT North site on Stevenson Road. Our request is for $29.6 in local funding. Construction documents are completed, and pending approval, the school will be occupied for the 28-29 school year. AACPS's total CIP budget request is approximately $204.7 million. With that request, our goal is to receive approximately $88.5 million in state funding support. State funding will be split between BTL or Built to Learn funding at $46.8 million and CIP funding at $41.7. AACPS is actively pursuing alternative funding sources for additional CIP projects. These funding sources include state and federal grants, direct payments from the IRS through the Inflation Reduction Act, and utility rebate programs. We view these funding sources to supplement, not supplant, the current funding request to achieve not only our sustainability and safety goals, but also to create a capital renewal program for the district. As a final note, we are in the process of updating the 10-year Strategic Facilities Master Plan. This study was originally published in 2005 and updated in 2015. Each publication prioritizes major capital projects over a 10-year period. We aim to complete the next revision by this fall after Phase 2 redistricting is completed, and to have requested a new project for the 6-year plan that will provide funding for the long-term capital investments. This strategic project funding request starts in FY27. And with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Do you have, can you provide us with a list of the backlog of the repairs And how many millions of dollars was that backlog list?
$796 million. Yes, we could provide you a copy of the maintenance.
Okay,
maintenance
is that list prioritized?
We prioritize it on an annual basis. It's updated every year. Our current needs outweigh the funding availability, so we do prioritize what we can actually achieve on a given year.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions or comments?
No, I don't have any.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
We had talked about this before, but I'm just interested in regards to schools. A lot of this is dependent on federal and state funding. What do you see? Have you spoken to anybody about changes in federal funding? Are you seeing any conversations, communications regarding receiving less federal funding?
The CIP this year, other than IRS direct payments through the Inflation Reduction Act, doesn't anticipate any federal funding infusion. Our focus for alternative or funding is really through the state process and the IAC and BTL funding. We do anticipate a slightly lower than requested number from the state IAC. The 90% recommendations were just published, and we see that number towards the mid 30s is kind of our target right now. Mid $30 million mark is what we anticipate the state to give us.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, a question I have on redistricting. I know you've went through phase 1, and I think that was very successful. Phase 2, after phase 2 is done, where will we be with capacity overall within each school?
Overall, our goal is to get schools at or below 100% capacity. And we'd like to keep it there over the next 7 to 10 years. And then we'll have to see where additional additions or replacement schools need to be built.
Very good. You know, I know the county's taken on a big hurdle with building, I guess, 3 high schools in the last 10 years. And what hadn't been a new high school in 30 years prior to that. So there's been a lot of money going to creating capacity, and it was much needed. So I will be glad when the Meade projects are all complete. We've been talking about that for, oh my Lord, 10 years or longer. And we see now that a lot of these buildings are complete, how much they were needed, and the last couple are being completed. So I just commend everyone in the departments for pushing for that and the success of that whole plan. Board members, any other questions? Okay, that was you got off awful easy.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
All right, Gus, our last group of today is the community college. I chatted them when I saw that the Board of Ed presentation was going to go quickly, and so they are going to be here at about 1:20. Do you guys have maybe any questions for Naomi, or does Naomi have anything that you want to go over, just since we have about 5 minutes in between presentations? And I don't think anyone needs a break because we just came back from lunch.
I actually do have one CAO capital project I could squeeze in there.
Okay,
Usually, Yeah. Usually the county always has like one like financial contribution they make toward an organization. And this year they actually have one. Let me just present my screen. Bear with me. Okay, can you all see the YMCA?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a request for $1 million in fiscal year 26. It's to provide a financial contribution toward the construction of a new Y Family Center, which would provide an array of health, youth, and senior enrichment and community services. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Where would
Yeah.
that be at?
Exactly. And do they already own the land?
Let me see if I can pull that information up. Bear with me, I'm just clicking through some screens here. My computer's not cooperating. Sorry. Here we go. Okay. Funding and grants. Okay.
I think the YWCA would cost more than $1 million too.
Oh, it is. This is just a financial contribution. Okay, here we go. Here is a site plan, and then let me open up the other document that they provided.
If I can give an introduction to that, this property would be familiar to the Planning Advisory Board. This is at the southwest corner of the intersection of Veterans Highway and West Benfield. This was a subject property for a water and sewer plan amendment about a year ago, where we recommended, or the county was recommending including it in within the planned sewer service area. There's been discussion at times of this property being redeveloped for assisted living, and this would be a change of plans of the future for this property to now be a YMCA.
I do remember that property, Michael. And we said yes to that, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So it would go from, they would sell it. I mean, a YWCA is commercial. Or no, it's not. It can be done in residential, right? I think Ys can be done in residential because the community college and the Y in Arnold are both R1, I think.
I do not have that information.
He's looking it up. I see him looking.
Yeah. This property does have commercial zoning currently. I think that was changed, Jessica, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was changed through the region plan process.
That sounds familiar. Is this property sometimes referred to as Albert's Farms? Does anybody know? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I believe it was during the comp zoning.
It doesn't matter. You guys don't spend a lot of time on that. I was just curious, but I mean, much rather see a Y than single family homes.
Yeah, so this is just a financial contribution. They're projecting it to cost at least $30 million. They did ask the county for $5 million, and the oversight committee is recommending $1 million. I can certainly put this information, this request out on the Google Share Drive for you all to look at. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah, if you can add that to the drive, that would be helpful. Thank you.
And per Elizabeth's earlier question, the Y in Arnold by the community college has C2 zoning, which is the same as this property's location.
Okay.
But you're correct that the community college around it is R1.
It's R1. Okay, thank you. I knew community college. I wasn't sure about zoning. So they've not purchased it. This is a proposal.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi.
Okay. I do see our friends from AACC on the call, so I'm going to go ahead and promote them to panelists. You'll have something pop up on your screen, which you should accept so that you can unmute and share screen. I've got Andrew Little, Don, Jim, looking for Melissa.
I already promoted Melissa to the panelist.
Awesome, thank you. And also AACC, thank you so much for being here early. I appreciate your flexibility.
Thank you for the opportunity to present early.
Thank you. We're glad you're early.
Friday, right? And
right.
we are all here. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Perfect. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, I'm just going to start. This is Dawn Lindsay. I want to say we are very, very grateful for the ongoing support we've had with the capital program. So thank you. We really appreciate your time. We know that this is a volunteer activity, and you are advising the county regarding these capital projects and priorities. We know it's a challenge. We know there's a lot to balance, but it's important for us to share our story today. So I'm going to go ahead and start by turning it over to Melissa.
Thank you, Dr. Lindsay. Hitting the share button. All right. Gus, can you see my screen okay?
I can. Everything looks good.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you all for having us. With me today, I have folks who I think you will recognize, Jim Taylor, who's going to walk us through most of the projects, and also Andrew Little. So between the president and the three of us, hopefully we should be able to answer any questions that you have. So these are the topics that we're going to cover today, with a picture of very different times, given much greener time on our campus. So just a little bit of background information, especially if you're new folks, that our capital budget is really the financial manifestation of our comprehensive facilities master plan, which is required by the state. And we shared last year that our master plan was approved by our board in 2016. And we did a little update in 2021. You see the cover here on your slide. It is posted to our website. We did that 2021 update because a lot had changed, timing of our projects with the county and some enrollment adjustments. So we did complete that 2021 addendum. And we are actually, and we'll talk about it, we are required to conduct a new plan, and we will be we actually had a work session with our board on it yesterday, and we will be presenting it to our board for approval in January of 2026, submitting that master plan to the state in February 2026. And I neglected to share on the last slide, I won't go backwards, but this is our capital budget, not yet approved by the board. So the board will approve it on at its meeting on February 25th. Oh, there it is. Okay, so in summary, college does things a little differently. So this chart probably looks different than what your other departments have presented. This is how we present our summary to the county. We also provide detail sheets to the administration, so they have all the information that they need. And we feel very confident that our request aligns with the guidance that we received from the county. I think it was Chris Trumbauer, that we focus on completing existing projects. And you see up here in our section, new construction projects, there's nothing there. So we're focusing on renovating what we have and some deferred maintenance in lines 7 through 11. And as the president mentioned, we certainly understand that funding is limited, and we're appreciative of the support that the county has given us, especially for the projects that are currently in the queue, the Dragon Building, the Florestano Building, Student Services, and HCAT, and we'll talk about each of those in a few minutes. All right, Jim, you want to take yourself off mute and walk us through the projects in our renovations area.
Good afternoon. So the first project that I want to run through is the Science Building renovation project, which is a complete and comprehensive renovation of the existing facility. This past fall, we contracted with our design and CM at risk firms and completed the program verification phase of the design process. We just finished our schematic design document review. So that's been turned back to the design team, and we are starting to move forward with the design development phase of the project. We are currently working on logistical plans to relocate faculty and staff and labs out of that building prior to the start of construction, which we expect to start in February of 2026.
Jim,
So,
if I can add to this one for the committee, that you may recall this building a couple years ago was a renovation and an addition. So when we did our initial cost estimates about a year and a half ago, cost estimates were significantly higher than what the county had budgeted. So we went back to the drawing board and we eliminated the addition. I think we talked to you about that last year. So this is just a renovation of current. The math faculty were supposed to go into that addition, so you'll see a project later on for a renovation of their current space. But we have spent a little bit of money to update that space already, and it's looking as bright and fresh as it can in an older building. Our new facilities master plan will have some opportunities for those folks to be relocated in the out years. So when we provide that facility, when that facilities master plan is finalized, you'll see that. Sorry, Jim.
no problem. The next project is the Florestano renovation. The previously renovated fourth floor of the building opened in the spring of 24, and it contains the college's new Learning Innovation Center. The center provides production facilities for faculty and students to create online content, spaces for faculty to teach online courses, and offers open computer labs where students can take online courses while they're on campus. We are currently working and wrapping up the design of floors 1 through 3. We just received our 100% construction documents, and the construction manager will begin developing the guaranteed maximum price for the project. We expect to start work in July of this year, and funding for the FY26 will allow us to complete the renovation and provide furnishings and equipment for the project. The Student Services Center project. So once the Florestano renovation is completed in 2026, the Student Services building will be vacated. The renovation of the Student Services building will include event space, student life, student government offices, and other functions typically found in a student union building. We see this building as very important to student engagement. So we will be applying for state funding for this project in March of 26 and are currently evaluating the proper mix of college functions that belong in that facility. So we'll just be starting the required Part 1 and Part 2 program documents that the state requires. So the costs for this project have been escalated from last year's request to reflect the pushing out of the project by 1 year. HCAT. So this project was originally submitted in our FY25 capital budget request. Over the years, the college's HCAT facility in Glen Burnie has experienced severe settlement issues. The college continues to make repairs where we can, but the settlement issues have become increasingly concerning. The existing floor structure exhibits substantial settlement, with cracking, and sub-slab piping systems have actually separated in several locations due to settlement. So these issues were well documented in an engineering analysis completed by the county in February of 23. They discussed several options in that study. All options came at a significant cost and disruption to the activities in the facility. After we reevaluated the study, the college and the county had discussions, and it was determined that relocating the Glen Burnie and Humanities HCAT functions into a single location at the Arnold campus was the most sensible and cost-effective solution. So this project is a priority for the college, and we will be submitting the Part 1, Part 2 program as required by the state on March 1st of this year.
And as a reminder that this is the previous Robinson building, and it is a county-owned building.
The math building renovation that Melissa mentioned earlier, the building was originally constructed in 1986. And it's a little over 13,000 gross square feet. During the pandemic, the college permanently closed the Child Development Center that was located on the first floor, and that space currently remains vacant. And more recently, the addition to the Dragon Science Building was deleted, and thereby we are leaving the math faculty in a building that's undersized. And as Melissa mentioned, we have done some minor renovations in that building, but it's still antiquated. The math building renovation was included in our 21 master plan update and is currently being reevaluated as part of the 2026 master plan effort. The scope of the project may change a little as we continue to work through the master plan. So this portion of the presentation deals with our capital budget request, repairs, replacements, and improvements. And generally, these projects or funds are county funded, fully county funded. So for campus improvements, these funds allow the college to properly address unexpected emergencies as well as high priority deferred maintenance issues. We recently utilized campus improvements funds to quickly address unexpected repairs to the pedestrian bridge between the east and west campus. We also completed recently a comprehensive facilities condition audit in December, and it reflects a current backlog of about 5.3 million that will grow if unchecked, if we don't do anything, to about 84 million in the next 10 years. FY26 and out year costs were escalated in this fund request to reflect current construction escalation rates per the state of Maryland's Department of General Services. Walkways projects. So over the years, funding from this project has allowed us to replace asphalt walkways, repair and repave portions of outdated parking areas, and address ADA site issues around the campus. Funding for FY26 will be used to repair and replace deteriorated concrete walks and brick paver areas at various locations on the Arnold campus. Again, this is another project where we've escalated it slightly to reflect construction costs per the Department of General Services escalation rates. So the Systemics project is funded every other year by the state and fully funded by the county in those years as well. So it's every other year. In FY26, we're requesting funds to replace the careers building roof. The existing roof is failing and has experienced multiple roof leaks and rapid deterioration of the system. The existing system manufacturer is no longer in business and the warranty is no longer valid. The photo you see here is actually a roof leak that we recently experienced in the careers building. So this is a very important project to us from a maintenance standpoint.
On the information technology enhancements, this is just a continuing project, no new funding requested for 2026. We're continuing to work under this project to modernize our IT infrastructure and enhance security. The next one is the technology fiber infrastructure. This is a continuing multi-year project. We're continuing to request the same $450,000 through 2028, and then the final phase will be in 2029 for $100,000. That work initially was kicked off in 2023. We just in December had our board of trustees approve the third phase of that. And so we're on time and in progress with the current plans for this project and looking for continued funding.
So again, just to recap, as we started with showing the current year fiscal 26 and the 5 out years with the projects that we just went through. And then we just have a couple more slides and then happy to answer any questions you may have. Jim?
Jim, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So the college continues to build upon our past successes with LEED building certifications, including the Floristano fourth floor renovation, which obtained a LEED Gold certification. So we will be looking to obtain a minimum of LEED Silver with our next projects, the Floristano renovation of floors 1 through 3 and the Dragon building renovation. All of the projects that we've recently completed in the last several years have obtained LEED Gold. We're very proud of that. The Climate Solutions Act. So we continue to evaluate this process and have begun obtaining data required for benchmarking the college's covered buildings. The regulation will require a 60% reduction in greenhouse emissions by 2031 and net zero emissions by 2045, based on the benchmark data of 2024. So covered building owners will need to make building investments to comply with the new building energy performance standards or pay alternative fees or penalties for non-compliance. An alternative compliance fee will be paid for every metric ton of net direct emissions in excess of the standard in a given calendar year. So in 2030, the alternative fee or penalty would be $230 per excess metric ton of CO2. In other updates, Melissa?
Just as we mentioned, we are in the process of updating our facilities master plan. So we're happy to share that with the county and with you when it's available. And as a footnote, that we do have a current modular building that we have an RFP out on the street for folks who are interested in relocating that that building, and perhaps we get a little salvage out of that. So those are all of our updates. I know we went very quickly. Happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, board members, questions, comments?
I have a question. Hey, Melissa. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Jim. How many buildings are remaining that needs renovation? I know the math building was definitely one of them, but in the last 10 years, there's been new buildings that have come about, which is the Health and Science building and a couple others. How many more buildings would need total renovation?
Well, it's a great question. And I don't know if I can pull it up, but anyway, we have a fantastic graphic that we looked at yesterday with our facilities master plan. As Jim shared, we have a facilities condition audit that was recently completed that evaluates all the buildings by excellent, good, fair. And, you know, candidly, Van, we'll be probably renovating buildings, you know, into the future, because as you renovate one, then something else probably is needed, you know, on another building. So, you know, we can provide the updated facilities master plan to you all before your timing might be a little different, but we can provide an update on it in our presentation due this time next year. But candidly, you know, the really big one right now, as you said, is Dragon, the science building, and we're thrilled that the county's funding that one. Then, you know, we renovate student services as that becomes vacant. Math will be next. More than likely, if everything holds with our facilities master plan, we'll probably be doing some type of renovation to the gym. It's an existing building that has some interior renovation needs and also some systemic needs, and then probably some smaller renovations. You know, the careers building is probably due in the out years. It's not likely that you'll see that, you know, in our next year's capital budget and then cult buildings. So, you know, it's something that we're constantly looking at in terms of the age of the facilities. And as you saw on that last slide, you know, we also know that we have some quote unquote temporary buildings. We have 3 of them that are occupied, that when we were busting at the seams, we were using those quote unquote temporary buildings or modular buildings, and they're long in the tooth. So our facilities master plan is going to recommend that they be removed, and we utilize existing space, reconfigure existing space on campus to get rid of those inefficient modular buildings.
And also in the master plan, is there an opportunity? I mean, is there enough land to grow in the future?
A good
if
question.
needed?
Yeah, it's not something that's part of our current, that I expect we will see as part of our current planning based on our enrollment numbers. You know, we're kind of, I think, at a sweet spot right now in terms of the balance between online and in person. Many of our students love in person, but also many find it more accessible to be online, which can be hybrid, right? Sometimes a class is in person and a little bit remote, as you probably know. So we're roughly 50% between those two. I think that's going to mean that we need to be more efficient in the space that we have, and we do have a lot of work underway to schedule towards student demands, and use our space efficiently. I think and our board members have said this as well, the last new building that we expect to see was constructed, and that's the Health and Life Sciences building. Our focus will be on taking care of what we have, to your first question.
Okay. And then the other question is, as far as the Glen Burnie location, I know that there were some struggles there with that building as well. Is there any changes or plans for that, or?
You mean the Sarah E. Carter building, right? Not HCAT, the building that we talked about. You're referring to the bigger building.
Right.
Yeah, good question. So the county has a project that will start in May of this year to renovate the HVAC systems of that building. And because that's such a big, messy project, no criticism, but that is what it is. We're going to be having a significantly decreased presence there, way down. We won't be offering classes, probably have someone there, you know, in case students show up. But while that project is underway, we are, and then we'll be evaluating what our presence looks like out there in the future. You know, there are some programs that are very successful out there, but we're certainly not maximizing our space utilization. So we're talking with county administration about how we might co-locate perhaps with AAWDC out there. They're going to be, their lease is up in the coming years. So that would be a wonderful partnership for us and AAWDC, perhaps to be located out there. So that's going to require, redesign of the space and probably a build out. And I know the county's chief administrative officer is working kind of on what that might look like into the future.
Right. That sounds like a great idea.
Good.
And as far as the Arundel Mills location, does it seem to be more occupied now, or use of it, or?
Yeah, post-COVID, I would say that space certainly has an opportunity for better utilization. So that's something that we're going to be working on, especially with recommendations from this new facilities master plan about how we might maximize the use of that space. That space is actually owned by the Anne Arundel Community College Foundation and leased to us. So it's been effective. It's also where we have our regional higher education center, where citizens can go there to attain a baccalaureate, post-baccalaureate degrees. And we've got some work to do, I think, there in terms of determining what's the best mix of classes out there to serve our community in that West County location.
And it's really.
Go ahead, Dawn. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and it's really impacted the regional higher education, because a lot of these colleges that have been utilizing that building as a permanent building to come and meet with the students and teach at the students and bring the college to them, with the shift to online, now the students can continue to do exactly what they were doing and still living in the county doing face-to-face, not doing face-to-face, but doing online. So there's been a shift that we're looking at with that as well.
Yeah, I really love that building. I
Mhm.
just feel like it's underutilized, but
I'll tell you,
okay.
it's very popular with our dealer school. That's still
Mhm.
very popular. The training that we do for folks who want to be dealers at the casino, still very.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
Good question.
Well, yeah. Well, I miss you guys, but thank you for answering my questions.
Good to see you.
Very, very good. Well,
Okay,
thank
see
you.
you.
And I'm glad you brought up Arundel Mills location because that was my question. I know there's been a lot of talk about the campus, but off campus, that was a question, and I wasn't sure who owned the building and to what extent it's being used. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Good.
Any other board members have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Elizabeth.
It made me think of the other, when you were talking about Arundel Mills, has there been any pursuit to having places at Annapolis Mall? I know there's a new owner there and they're doing a lot of innovative stuff. The public library is there. I didn't know if you all were thinking about taking any of that space. And along with that, Marley Station.
Yeah, something that we actually looked at, my goodness, it was pre-COVID, probably 2 owners ago of that mall. It's a challenge for us because many of those spaces come at a cost. So we try to balance community need with, of course, our budget. And we are in many, as you probably know, many high schools where we offer dual enrollment programs for concurrently enrolled high school and students enrolled with us as well. That's been our focus. But
just curious.
Yeah, it's something we're constantly looking at opportunities, but we have to be very careful about the operating budget impact for us and student demand. So thank you. Very good question.
Okay, board members, questions, comments? Okay, very well. Well, thank you all for your presentation. And
Thank
we
you.
hope we can find you some money.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank
Happy
you.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, Jessica, Michael, and everyone, it looks like we're going to wrap it up today, right?
Yes, that's correct. This was our last presentation today. We'll be doing the same style next week on Friday, once again, starting at 8:30 in the morning, where we'll be fully virtual and getting presentations from the various departments. And then the following Friday after that, on the 28th, we'll meet in person in the Chesapeake room at 8:30 in the morning to start deliberations. So that's when you guys really work closely with Naomi and David and Beth to discuss, your recommendations for the budget. Before we jump into budget on the 28th, the county executive will be coming to speak with you guys briefly. And we're meeting in person and it's during the day, so OPZ will be providing lunch. But that's it for our foreseeable future.
Okay, very
Thank
good.
you.
One of the questions I did have is possibly if there is a weather event next Friday, the protocol for that is what?
Yeah, if there is a weather event next Friday, most of our departments are equipped for teleworking. And so the county has a policy in place where if you're equipped for teleworking, you're expected to telework. So for our virtual day, as long as everyone has internet access, I don't see that being a huge problem. For our in-person day on the 28th, if something like that happens, we'll have to reevaluate and maybe go virtual.
Okay, very good. Well, everyone, we've had a lot to think about, and I anticipate next week to be just as much fun. So with that, happy Valentine's, everyone. And maybe enjoy your special dinner or whatever you're doing this evening. And with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn meeting. Have a happy Valentine's Day.
Motion's been made and a motion has been seconded. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, motion passes and this meeting is adjourned. See everyone next week.
Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks again.